Welcome back to another episode of the Lou Lee Podcast. As always, your hosts, Lou, that's me.
And Lee, that's me.
That's the Lou Lee Podcast right there. We're joined today with one of our special friends, Mark Brophy. Mark, how you doing?
Doing good. How you guys doing?
Great. Absolutely wonderful.
Nice.
Sorry, I'm fiddling with stuff. I'm also doing great.
Stop fiddling with things. The podcast
Like, there's so much stuff in this car right now. And I even have temptations like Twinkies and some Quality Street chocolates.
So just for our listeners, everyone
I've got
listening,
some cheesies in my car.
There's three of us on this podcast, and I am the only one in a house. Lee is also in a car with Brophy, who's also in a car. Two separate cars,
best
two
of both
separate
worlds.
Locations.
I'm in my car that's in my house. And Brophy is just in his car.
I'm in my car, which is my home.
That's true. Okay, so we're all in homes.
We're all in our home.
We're all in
in
cars.
our home.
Two of us are in cars.
Yeah, actually,
Some
Lou,
of us have really good snacks.
Lou, you might have to go to your car.
I might have to go to my car. That's the only way that this will actually work.
Right.
So, bro, where actually are you, aside from inside your car?
I am inside my car, inside the city of Courtenay, British Columbia on Vancouver Island. I'm just actually kind of at the Pumpledge River at the powerhouse where the fish dam is. This is a great spot. You can jump in the river here and float down, and then you come out at the city. So the other day, me and a friend, we took my pack raft, blew it up, threw it in the river, and then floated down for a while. So it's a great little spot.
And you're literally in the park right now? Like, you don't have what? Like, how are you connected to the internet right now?
Well, it's a park within the city, right? So I've got pretty good cell phone reception.
Oh, you're connected to your cell phone for internet. Got it.
Yeah, hotspot.
No Starlink or anything to get you connected
not
to the internet?
Not yet. Dude,
They have a sale right now where the things are they're like $200 to get that dish, but the monthly fees are still $200 a month or something. So
yeah, but that's
still
better.
pretty impractical unless, yeah.
That's better than the $800 a month for internet we were paying in Quebec.
If you're in rural areas, yeah, it's way better for that.
Shit was
but I can't wait till it gets affordable for everyone.
Bro, weren't you saying that you guys have a Starlink at your
the lodge,
your site there at the lodge?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, I think.
Is it fast?
I think all the internet is Starlink now.
Is it fast?
It's very good. It's very good when you're off peak hours. Like if everyone's at work and you're the only one, or there's 10 of you maybe kicking around, it's good. After dinner, when everyone's on streaming or doing whatever, then it gets slow.
I see.
Because there's 100 of us, right?
Well,
so
right,
100 staff. So.
Better than nothing, or better than whatever alternative there probably is out there, right?
Oh, it's incredible, actually, and it doesn't even seem to get that affected by the weather. Sometimes we can get right socked in, and it'll just be cloudy and rain for days, and the internet's still pretty good.
It's pretty amazing.
Elon Musk, he's a smart guy.
I'm a big fan.
Okay, where do we start with Mark Brophy? I guess first, where, what did you take in school? Did you graduate university?
Yeah, I did. I did 4 years, 3 at Western and then 1 in Singapore, and I graduated with a double major in medical science and animal physiology. And
that 1 year in Singapore was for the same degree? They had the same courses, equivalent courses there?
Yeah, exactly. I might have told you that, guys, this. I don't know if I have or anything, but so my first year, I wanted to be a doctor, right? So I started in medical science, a undergrad program for it. And then at the end of that first year, the guidance counselor called me in and was like, you're either not super smart or you just don't work as hard as everyone else. So we might just kick you into general biology. And then if you get really good grades, you can come back to medical science. So second year, I went into general biology, studied focused on animal physiology because I think animals are the most interesting thing in the world. And then when I went to Singapore, their medical classes are classified as general biology classes. Like, it's not a separate thing there. So I took all like toxicology, immunology, infectious diseases, all that in Singapore, just because it was cool, right? It was interesting. And then I got back, and the guidance counselor's like, dude, you can't do that. Like, we told you couldn't do that. So now I had like 2 years of medical science and 1 year of animal physiology. And the guidance counselor was like, you have to do 5 years now. You can't graduate this year. Like, you need to stay and do 2 years of general biology. Your year in Singapore was a waste. And I was like, fuck that, right? So I was pissed. I was like, I'm only here for 1 more year. I have seen the world and I am leaving. Like, you only have me for 1 more year. So I left and I was all like bummed, right? And then I went back the next day. A different guidance counselor was there. I was talking to her and she was like, oh yeah, sweet chick, glad you had a good time in Singapore. She was like, we can make magic happen here. You only got 1 more year, that's fine. You might as well graduate with something, right? So she was like, if you're prepared to work really hard this year, we'll send you home with a double major. And I was like, okay. Like, isn't that wild how the 2 people with the same job give you drastically different answers? Like, one is like, you get nothing unless you come for 2 years. And then this lady's like, we'll give you 2 if you work hard this year. And it's like, what? Like, that's...
The one guy's like, listen, it's the system. And I literally can't change it. There's nothing we can do. And she's like, fuck the system. Like, we can just do whatever we want. So it's fine. It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's experience. It's totally experience.
And it's insane because that lady, like, she probably, like, if I didn't go back and saw her, my life would be totally different, I assume. Like, who knows what would have happened?
Right. But, yeah, that's how life works, right?
That's right. So that's my long story. I got a degree.
I've often actually thought of that, like a single decision that's changed your life.
Yeah.
You know that trip that you guys went down to? I think it was Dominican?
Yeah.
In high school? And
11.
I didn't end up going?
Yeah.
Yeah. Does that have a similar effect on your life? Like, if you never went to Dominican Republic in grade 11 or grade 12...
Yeah.
Do you think you would have never been this kind of like world traveler?
I don't think that was a pivotal experience in my life because even before that, I was very curious about the world and like wanted to travel, wanted to see everything, right? What the Dominican did for me is it pointed me towards being a doctor, I think. Because I think when I was like in high school, I was like, I didn't really know. Like, I did my grade 10 project on being a chimney sweep, just because, like, I didn't really take anything serious and I had no idea. And then when I went to the Dominican and I saw the woman who was, I don't even know if she was a doctor or a nurse in the village and, like, just helping people out, I was like, that's freaking dope. I want to do that, right? And then I got on that path, but then clearly I left that path when I was in Singapore and traveled around. So I don't know if it was
right. I just remember you coming back and you were like fairly changed. And I was like,
right.
Whoa. But I think that might have been, the whole doctor thing. Because then you were talking about like Doctors Without Borders and...
That's right.
Seeing if you do that, incorporating it.
It's also the first time that I was immersed in a different... like a totally different culture, different language, and like seeing poverty, right? Like seeing the developing world. So, I mean, growing up in Burlington and then going and living on a sugarcane plantation for a week, it's like, you definitely changed after that. It definitely changed me, but I'm not sure if it was a pivotal moment in life that got me where I am or anything,
I've actually recently was thinking about like pivotal moments in your life, and I used to always think like if I could go back and like change some things, like I would do that, and even small things or whatever, just like would always go back. Like, I would go back and do that if I was ever like given the magical power to go back and change things. Like, I would do that.
Right.
But then, like recently, I've been thinking like if any little thing changed in my past, like I wouldn't have my son and daughter. I might have a different son and a different daughter.
Right.
but like I wouldn't want that. So,
Right.
And I'm like kind of scared to think about that now.
Right.
Like I don't want anything to change because I just want them in my life. You know what I mean? It's very weird, different feeling when you have something like that that's so big that would change drastically if something small changed.
Absolutely, man. I think of that often, especially when people are like, "Oh, was your degree a waste of time because you don't really use it guiding?" You're like, yes and no, right? Like it was, but it wasn't because I'm here because of it. Like any small decision you make, right?
Right. So why Singapore?
Singapore because we could only go on exchange to universities that we partnered with, right? And all of the ones we were partnered with were in Europe, I remember. And I didn't really care about Europe. Europe to me was like old and boring, and I wanted to go somewhere that was like so absolutely totally different from where I was. I wanted to be like wowed and confused and like eat things.
Singapore's like a relatively new. It's a relatively new country, right? So compared to Europe.
Yeah, exactly. But it's also such a weird place.
What? No, I'm joking. It's not new. It's been
but it
there
is
forever.
Yeah, but it's also kind of a new country. Like it's super ancient, but it is also new, right? And it's also like you got a guy walking down the street who just came from like nanotech R&D, and then he takes a little alleyway into a little shrine that's been there for 3,000 years or something, and participates in the Walking Ghost Festival. That's why Singapore's so cool.
I see.
Because it is so new, but it is so freaking old at the same time.
That's a cool perspective. And you knew all of that before choosing to go there? Or was it just like
I had
Europe
no idea.
Wasn't interesting and this was different and it ended up being that great of a thing?
That's exactly it. I had no freaking clue. I just knew Singapore was a long way away in Asia, and I was like, I have to go to this faraway place. And I went there, and when I first got to Singapore, I did not care about Singapore at all. I was like, okay, it's school, everyone speaks English, it's very clean, it's a giant city, right? So I was always out of there as soon as I could. I'd go to Indonesia, right? Go to Thailand, go to Malaysia. And it wasn't until I was in Singapore for, I think, like half a year that I started realizing like how freaking cool it is. How it's so old, yet so new, and so modern, but ancient. And yeah, just the complexity of it, right?
Yeah, that's really cool. That's really cool that you end up in a place that actually wowed you, even though you didn't know it would.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to help pay for school and stuff, you did tree planting. Right.
That's
when
right.
When did you do tree planting?
So I started
During
planting
university
after my first year of university, and I did it my first year, second year, third, and fourth. I think I did it all, and then I did 2 more years after that. So I did 6 summers of tree planting in total. No.
Okay.
5.
Before we get too far,
6.
I want to try out an idea.
Yeah.
I will openly admit that Lou doesn't really like this idea, but I want to try it anyways because I think you're totally fine with it and you're willing. So, you're not using your phone right now, right?
I am to hotspot, but that's all.
Okay. Open up your phone and then open up your timer app. Either timer or stopwatch. Stopwatch is probably easier.
Stopwatch, yeah.
Okay. And I'm going to give you 4 minutes on the clock.
Okay.
And you're just going to start telling us your life story in 4 minutes.
Okay.
Start from beginning to end as much as you can. And the timer is just as a guideline. You don't have to follow it at all. But it's just a guideline. So you have 4 minutes. Can we hear your life story?
Okay. Going. My name is Mark Brophy. I was born in Burlington, Ontario with you guys, and then went to university, got a degree in animal physiology and medical science. And then after that, I just disappeared into the world. Like, spent my 20s basically traveling around Southeast Asia and Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Korea, sailing across the Pacific, biking down the West Coast, tree planting, making money and then spending all my money and then making all my money and then spending them. And that was freaking awesome. And then I guess it's kind of like my early 30s, I guess, that I came back to Canada and went to adventure school because I, discovered guiding in Australia on the Great Barrier Reef. And then now this has become my life, this is being a guide. I guess nowadays, or ever since then, it's kind of like bounced back between work, which is somewhere remote usually, like Arctic, Antarctica, Wells Gray, Clayoquot, Chilcotins, and then just doing my own expeditions or my own trips, traveling around as much as possible. And then I guess that all got shaken up by COVID, where I got stuck, in Canada. Like, I don't know, I guess how much time did I spend in Canada before COVID? Like a couple months here and there. And then all of a sudden, with COVID, I was here all the time for like 2 years. And I'm still here, which is kind of cool. It's fun. I enjoy it. And then I guess that brings me to now, where I am working in Clayoquot Sound as a guide, managing the guide team. And I'm currently on 2 weeks vacation, hanging out with friends and riding my bicycle.
You're like Jesus. You skipped over all the times from from the moment you're born to the moment you're 30. That was incredible.
Yeah, I guess it's just not that important,
you're like, I was born in Burlington, and then I finished high school, went to university. I was like, what?
But like, realistically, what do you say about your childhood or anything? It's like, I don't fucking know. Like, me and you and Lou, we had a lot of fun with our friends.
What was the timer at when you finished?
It was at like 2 minutes.
Yeah, 4 minutes is a long time, eh? I'd listened to a pair of people do that. So where I got that from was, I don't know who. It was like some sort of psychologist or therapist or something. There's like 32 or 36 questions that you can ask someone to try to like quickly become intimate with them.
Okay.
It's something along those lines. I would need to look that back up. But I just listened to someone do that, and I was like, that is super interesting. I want to like make my guests do that.
Yeah, that's it. The most interesting thing about that, right, is not even what people really say, but more like, yeah, what do they focus on, right? Like, do people get lost in their childhood, or like, is it all about now, or is it the future, or like, yeah, clearly, like, what's important to me or on my mind, because it blew right by childhood. It's funny, actually.
It's also relevancy bias, though, like or recency bias. I mean, you probably are you remember things that are more recent to you than things that are further away, and they feel less important, but they're obviously still important.
100%. Absolutely. Yeah, because the past is just the past. Like, you've lived it. It happened, and you're like, it is what it is.
Lou,
did you hate that?
I did not like that. I'm trying to guide you through your life to tell us all of the stories around all these interesting events, and you kind of just powered through it all in 2 minutes. So if this is a 10-minute podcast, we could be done. Or if we want to stretch this out, we could do more interesting talk about some of these things.
No, I think we covered it, man.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think we're done here.
The 4 minute thing might be a good way to start, as like an intro, and that's like your opening paragraph or whatever, and then you dive into it.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. Like, I can see where Lou's coming from if he was like trying to guide you through your stories and stuff,
right?
Versus me, where I just like, you tell me a whole bunch of stuff, and then we could just kind of like pick apart the stories or ask questions about those things. Yeah.
You can see why he hates it.
Yeah, Lou, if you wanted to talk about something, or we can go into one of my segments.
Yeah, let's do one of your segments.
Okay, let me cue this up.
Let's go.
It's going to take half a second here. I also need to make sure my volume is way up. Okay, here we go.
Dude, I'm on the edge of my seat.
We'll get there.
I'm on the edge of my seat right now.
We'll get there.
Let's talk about sexy things.
Okay, this is my segment. This is my favorite segment because it's about my favorite topic, which is sex.
Oh,
so
nice.
let's talk about sex, baby. Okay, so this is actually a game that me and Evans played while he was riding shotgun and we were heading up to Tremblant. This is when Lou's family was super generous and they like took a whole bunch of us up there.
Right.
And so on the way there, everyone in the back was just passed out. And so me and Evans were just trying to like keep each other awake, or he was trying to keep me awake. And then so I was just like, hey Evans, I'm just going to ask you a whole bunch of questions about these words that are generally in like hip hop songs, and you try to tell me what they are.
Oh, good.
And that's exactly what we're going to do here.
This is going to be very good.
So I have the words, obviously.
Yeah.
And then if you need, I have a little hint for each one of them.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Number 1, brain.
Brain, obviously your brain that you think with.
Yeah, let me give you a clue because I see where you're going. Okay, here's the clue. Brain so good, could have swore you went to college.
Is that a clue?
Maybe not a clue. It's like how it was used in the song.
That makes it easier. Brain is so good. Makes me think.
Would you like to take a guess?
Yeah, well, it's clearly your brain that you think with, like the anatomical part of your brain.
Think about what the segment is called.
It's a sexual reference. So it's not the brain. It's not the brain in your head.
It's got to be the dick.
It is not the dick. But that's a good guess, though. Because everyone's like, oh, thinking with their head. But which one? It's oral sex. A.k.a. a blowjob. Brain.
How does that
To get
make
brain
sense?
is to get a blowjob. Okay, here's another one.
Is that because, like,
To cut.
you'd want it so deep that it would get, like, into your brain box?
So I was looking this up, and I don't know if this is true at all.
Mm-hmm.
Also, it was a little snippet, and I tried to look into it, and I couldn't figure it out. Some doctor said they could tell if someone has given oral sex by looking at the roof of their mouth. And I don't know how that refers to brain.
Oh, that was a reason? That was an explanation of it?
Yeah, that could be completely wrong. I could have been reading something that had nothing to do with anything. But I don't know. I just know it's a blowjob.
Okay. I'll
Okay,
remember
next.
that.
To cut. Or simply cut. And here's your clue.
Thank you.
Say she liked to think about cutting in the restrooms. From the song Hot in Here.
Uh-huh. Cutting.
To cut. Cut.
Yeah, to cut.
Cutting.
Yeah, cutting in the restroom. Yeah. Cut.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what this means. So
I have not the slightest clue
I am no help to you.
to what this could mean. You
It's
got
to
another
have
clue?
sex.
Oh. Cutting?
No, that's it. You get one clue, okay?
Okay.
It's just to have sex.
Uh-huh. In
Say
the
she'd
restroom?
like to think about having sex in the restrooms.
That reminds me of one
Clue
time
number
I was
3.
on
You are
the-
0 for 2. You are 0 for 2. I wonder if you're going to go 0 for 7.
You know what? I've got $10 riding on over 7. That last one though, cutting, that reminds me of I was on the ferry over to Vancouver Island a bunch of years ago, and I was sitting on the deck, like reading a book, and this girl walked over, and she was like, "Hey, what's up?" And I was like, "Nothing. How you doing?" And she was like, "You want to go fuck in the toilet?" And I was like, "Nah, I'm good, thanks." And she was like, "You're a loss." Walked away. I was like, weird.
What if she
That's
told
amazing.
you? What if she asked you to go cutting in the bathroom? What would you say then?
Well, I'd probably go because I wouldn't know what that meant.
Right.
Who knows? Okay, number 3. I'm ready.
Sprung.
Wrung. Like wringing out a sheet like a towel? Like that kind of wrung?
Sprung, like That girl's got me sprung.
Oh, sprung. Oh, erection, obviously.
Incorrect.
What?
It is to be completely and utterly obsessed about someone.
What?
Yeah.
I've
to
been
be
using,
like...
I've been using sprung long my whole
She's
life.
the first person you text when you wake up. She's the last person you text when you go to sleep. You might, like, call her phone even though you know she's unavailable just so you can hear her voice. Like, you're just completely obsessed. She's got you. You are sprung.
Wow. I think that was
fatty.
my best chance. A fatty.
Fatty.
A fatty. That
As
would
in,
be...
Shorty got the fatty.
Man. Shorty got the fatty. I'm going to say that ass. You got a fat ass.
That is an ass.
Oh, baby! Yeah, let's go.
Ding, ding, ding.
All right.
1 for 4.
Fuck yeah.
But to be fair, it's a big ass. Or a curvy ass.
Well, yeah.
Okay, here's another one. Number 5. Yeah, obviously. Number 5. And this is an acronym. But it also has a meaning as well.
Okay.
A thought. As in T-H-O-T. A thought.
Uh-huh.
Okay, here's a massive clue.
Wait. It's got something to do with, like, tits, hips,
Orifices.
Orifice, and then tiny ankles or something. Kind of
Toes.
Toes. That's it. It's
Yes, the tits, hips, orifices,
orifice, and toes. That's not it?
and toes. Or it could mean that hoe over there. That hoe over there.
Over there. Yeah.
Yep. And what does that mean? If you say she's a thought. Connect the dots, bro. You can do it.
Yeah, that sexy lady over there at the bar.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it stands for, yes.
Yeah.
But if you said she's a thought, it would mean she's a promiscuous girl. She is, aka, maybe a slut. That's a little bit harsh, but promiscuous girl.
It's hard to know, if what hoe means these days. Because, like, maybe traditionally...
it's very hard. These days, it's very hard to know.
She's a hoe. That's a bad thing. She's a slut. But it could be like, that hoe over there, maybe that's like a term of endearment, I don't fucking know, man.
Yeah, like, oh, your mother.
Yeah,
that
it's like...
over there.
Exactly.
Oh, my mother.
Yeah.
It's tough these days, I agree. Okay, number 6. You are 1 for 5.
I'm doing good.
Number 6. I wonder if you've heard it on the radio. A WAP. This is another acronym. Spelt W-A-P. WAP.
W-A-P. WAP.
Okay, here's your clue.
Wait. Wet ass pussy.
Ding, ding, ding.
Hey!
Nailed it.
My first instinct...
Macaroni in a pot. That's a wet ass pussy. Yeah, the clue is going to be coined by Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion.
Yeah, that would have been really helpful.
You don't know Cardi B? That's amazing. Okay, number 7. This is the final one, but it does have a bonus.
Oh.
Okay, here we go. What is a cuckold?
A cuckold? Can you spell that?
C-U-C-K-O-L-D.
Cuckold. That would be when someone has a firm hold or grip on your penis.
Yes, that's the cock hold. Completely wrong. Lou, do you know this one?
I think it's like when someone likes to watch their significant other like cheat on them and they get off to that.
Yes. Like that? Ding, ding, ding. It's generally a man. who likes to have another man have sex with his wife.
Huh.
Cuckold. He's a cuckold.
I don't think I would
The bonus question.
get off on that.
Not many people do.
You're not a cuckold.
It's a very niche fetish. Yeah, not many. It's super weird. I don't even know where it would come from.
Okay, hit me
But
with
anyways,
the bonus.
the bonus question.
Yeah.
Where does this name come from?
Oh.
And why?
Comes from Sir Robert Cuckold, who was a Belgian man, who was a milkman, actually, and was famous for delivering milk and then sleeping with the housewives. But it was named for this because one time when this happened, the gentleman of the home happened to be there and watched from the top of the stairs, unbeknownst to Sir Cuckold. But rather than fighting him and kicking him out, he was actually tipped generously for the milk delivery.
That's where it came from. That's completely correct.
I believe that was
to every last detail.
I think that was
So Robert
1892. 1892, I believe. Springtime.
Shouldn't Sir Cuckold be the husband though?
You would think
that story?
No, because yeah, maybe. That's right.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah, they were brothers.
Lou, do you know the answer to this?
Cuckolds.
No, I don't.
So it's actually from the bird, a cuckoo.
A cuckoo bird?
A cuckoo bird.
Yeah.
It lays its eggs in someone else's nest.
Yeah.
And has them raise their babies.
That's right.
For them.
There's
another bird that does it as well. A cowbird.
Yeah.
There's only two I know, but there's like a certain name for it, and I can't remember the name.
I forget as well. It's is it kleptoparasitism?
Oh, it does have the word parasite.
Parasitism, yeah. Shoot.
But I don't know if it's klepto. I don't remember that. But anyways, so what did you get? You got 2 out of 7.
That's pretty good.
You owe me $10. You owe me $10.
Kleptoparasitism is when an animal steals food or prey from another animal.
Yeah, klepto meaning like stealing.
Stealing, yeah, that's right. Yeah, birds do that a lot too. 2 out of 7. That's pretty good. That's way better than I expected. I feel
Not
like
bad.
you're shocked and you expected more from me, but then you must remember that my music choices and my general I don't know, unknowing of the general subjects of both hip hop, rap, and just I don't know. I guess the sexual world.
Hey, you never know. Kieran did pretty well in his sex game.
What? What did he get?
I think his sex game was a little easier though. So, to be fair.
Okay, I'll give you a question from his sex game, bro. Let's see if you get it. Okay, choosing one. Name the non-sexual reference for the term dildo.
Non-sexual reference? Oh,
yeah. That was his game. His game was like the exact opposite of yours.
Like the town in Newfoundland?
Yes!
See?
Ding, ding, ding!
Yeah, but that's
Very
different.
nice.
Dude, that's geography, though. Everyone knows that. I've, been to dildo.
I didn't know that.
I only knew that from my coworker. Making a stupid joke. But anyways, yeah. Pretty good.
Okay. I'm impressed with myself, actually.
Glad I could help.
Thank you.
All right, Magoo, you got a question for our guest here?
Yeah, I want to go into tree planting a little bit.
Yeah, okay.
So, how did you ever find out that you could do that? Like, what was your first foray into the whole tree planting world?
Right. So, basically, I was at university my first year. Basically, I was just thinking, I didn't want to graduate with debt. So I was like, how can I make as much money as possible? Like during the summertime, right? And one of the girls in my residence, she had tree planted. And she kind of put the idea in my head. So yeah, that was kind of it. It was like purely money based. I just wanted to make as much money as I could in the 4 months I had off.
When you first got to tree planting, did you know what to expect when you got there, or was it kind of a shock when you found out when you got there? And because I mean, you've explained to me how these days kind of work. You kind of get there and you get given like bags of tree saplings, and you basically just go out in plots on your own and plant them all, right?
Yeah, so it's kind of same but different every time, and it's I don't think you're ever like fully like prepared or ready to go tree planting. Like even though you know what it is, you never really know what it is. Mm-hmm. And when I went out there, like I flew out there, right? I landed in. It's my first time out west, landed in Prince George, took a, 5-hour bus ride or whatever up to Vanderhoof, this small town. And my foreman was supposed to pick me up at 10 at night or something. And he wasn't there. So I ended up sleeping in my hockey bag at the bus stop. And called him, and I was like, "Hey, are you like coming to get me?" And he was like, "Oh, is that today? I'll come get you in the morning." I was like, "Okay." I just like slept in the parking lot of the bus
what
stop.
What the fuck am I doing out here?
Totally. Then this guy picks me up, right? So we're driving back. We got like 3 hours drive back. We show up to this shitty ass motel in Fort St. James called the Chundu. And we pull in, and I was wearing sunglasses because it was sunny out. And one of the girls I worked with, she was like, "When I first saw you get out of the truck with sunglasses on, I hated you." And I was like, "Why?" We became good friends after that. But
dude, she sounds like a thought.
It was. But yeah, tree planting. It's kind of different for everyone. Like some people like to plant in pairs. They like to plant with a friend. So you've like got some motivation. You've got someone to like chat with at lunch. Some people just feel better being in the woods together. You know, I liked planting by myself because I like the faster you plant, the more money you make. It's piecework, right? Every tree you plant is an extra 10 to 30 cents in your pocket. And I know where I'm planting trees. I know I'm planting them by a stump or like in this area or that area. So like I know where I'm going to plant the tree. So I know where I've already planted. So I can base off my lines easier. I found it really difficult planting with other people because you would plant a line, then they would plant the next one. Then you'd be coming back and you'd see your trees and you know where you planted. But then you'd be looking for their trees, you know? So
right.
It was nice to plant with people, but I made way more money and was way faster by myself. And also, when you're by yourself, right, you can just like drift off into Neverland while you're planting.
How do you? Because I imagine after even just a couple days, I imagine this even happens on your first day when you're like, man, I don't want to do this anymore. Like it's obviously hard work. You got to slam the shovel into the ground. You got to open up the earth, whatever condition that earth is, whether it's hard or soft.
Yep.
You got to get a tree in there. You got to walk. You're walking all day, just slamming shovels into the ground all day.
Yeah.
You must hit points where you're like, I can't fucking do this anymore. This is just too much. How do you personally push through stuff like that?
I guess for me, it's like one, I'm very, when I get my mind on something, I'm very driven. So like for me, it was like, I must make as much money as possible. I can also be very competitive, right? So I'm competitive with myself and with the crew to be like, who's planting the most trees? I need to plant better. Like I expect more of myself. You know, if the average is like 2,000 trees a day, I want to plant 3,000 trees a day, you know? Like I have that in my head. But then the other thing is like, there were days for sure where I'd be like pissed off. Like you'd be on a rock block and you'd be like, you'd slam your shovel in, ding, ding, ding. You know, it's like all rock. You're not hitting any dirt. And you're like, your wrist is fucked and you're pissed and maybe it's raining or it's snowing and everything sucks. Like, there's definitely times where I've thrown my shovel or like hacked a tree to death with my shovel. Just exhausted myself beating it like a total temper tantrum. And then like thrown my bags across the block and then sat down. And then 2 minutes later, I'm like, well, fuck, like, I might as well do something with my day. Like, what else are you going to do, right? Just, like, sit in the middle of a destroyed forest and do what? Like, there's nothing to do. So, you might as well keep planting. You might as well make your time worth something, It's like the only thing harder than working is wasting an entire day doing nothing in a destroyed forest, So that was like, that's kind of easy motivation for me. But it's funny, right? Because some people, like, they would be like, fuck this. And they just like drop their bags and take themselves for a walk and like go have a nap in the forest, or like go find a lake that's like an hour walk away, go swimming and then come back, If I could do that and sit down 15 minutes and I'd be like, well, back to work.
How many of the like newbies every season end up lasting? Do you think it's is it a good rate or is it a bad rate of people, like, most people can't take it?
It definitely depends on the company and the crew you're on. Like, I got onto a crew that was well established, so there was only, I think, 6 of us newbies on a crew of 20 or something. And 4 of us lasted, 2 quit within the first week. But that's also like, we had a good foreman. We had a lot of people to look up to. We had a lot of people that knew what they were doing, right? So you could see them succeeding. You could watch them. You could learn from them. I know there's definitely crews that are like total rookie crews where you got 20 people, brand new, and when one person drops, everyone else starts questioning themselves. And it's like, if you're not making money right away, like you're promised, you're like, oh, I'm going to make like $200 a day, or $300 a day, or $500 a day. And when you start, you're making $100 a day, right? If you don't know or don't see that that's possible, then you're a lot more likely to give up, right? The 2 people on our crew that quit, one guy, he was this big, strong dude. But he couldn't take the bugs. It was the bugs that got him. It wasn't the work. It wasn't the monotony. It was just the bugs. And he tried a couple different things. Like the first day, he went crazy. And then he went into town and bought like an entire bug suit to go over his clothes. But
okay.
You're walking through like falling down trees and slash and burn piles and everything, and the suit got torn up a bit, so bugs would get inside, but then they'd get stuck inside, and he lost his mind. I was planting beside him, and this guy fucking threw his shovel, and I saw him running down the logging road, like trying to take off his hat, but the hat was inside the bug net, and just struggling, and he was screaming, man. He lost it. Yeah.
Man, I didn't even think about that. The bugs must be awful out there.
Oh, the bugs are disastrous. It's maddening, especially because they're there. They're coming for you. It's just you have to do it anyway. And in a way, the bugs are a very strong motivator, because the faster you move, the less you're going to get bit. So
right.
You go as fast as you can all day. You don't stop. Even when I'm rebagging more trees or eating my sandwich, I am not stopping, right?
Holy shit, man. That's a full day of labor.
Oh, yeah.
Just nonstop running around, moving.
Oh, yeah.
Getting bit by bugs still, but less so than if you stop. Oh, my God.
Yep. Pretty slow on.
Yeah, that sounds no buenos.
I don't think I could do it, man. I don't think I could do it. I could do it for a day, maybe a week if I knew it was going to end in a week. But how long are your trips when you go out there?
I mean, we generally work 4 or 5 days on and then 1 or 2 days off.
Yeah, but for a month, 2 months, 3 months?
3 months.
Yeah, see, like after that first break, I'd be like, that's it for me, boys. Like, I'm out of here. Yeah. When, I mean, I guess this doesn't necessarily apply so much to tree planting, but like when you're abroad, because I know you travel a lot, alone a lot, but I'm sure it happens in tree planting too, because you plant alone and stuff, or at least you like to. Like if you're having a bad day, but you're far away from home, like who do you think about?
It's a good question.
That's a good one. I like that.
I guess, yeah, it's different. I guess it depends on what I'm missing, or there's usually a cue, some kind of environmental or social cue that pops something up, right? Like there's been times where, when you're alone and like things aren't going well or something, and I've been like, this sucks, And then there's been times where my grandma's popped into my head, and I think about like, if I were to call her right now, what would I say? How would I describe my life, And then all of a sudden you're like, well, I guess it's not that bad, So she's one person. It depends, right? If I'm missing friends or something, then, I'll think of you guys. Or remember, like when you left India and made Lou Makes a Bagel, I watched that every single time I had an internet day, which was like once a month. I would go on and I would start with Lou Eats a Bagel, and then I would like send emails, reply to emails, write my little adventure update thing. Then I'd watch Lou Eats a Bagel, and then I would leave. It was like it was part of the ritual.
Yeah, I mean that was a sweet video.
It was a sweet video.
That was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun to make.
Yeah, and it's hard, right? Because I am a very social person, and I love being surrounded by friends, and I would love to spend my whole life down the road from you guys so we could do this in person, and we could play games, and we could like play badminton and spike ball and have barbecues. But at the same time, I just need to go to the mountains, like I need to travel, I need to be in the woods. Like, yeah, it's a hard duality, I guess.
What do you, when you think about getting out into the mountains, going out into the woods, or even adventuring, going to a new place or whatever, like what about that excites you?
I think the prospect of the unknown is the biggest one. Just being somewhere you've never been, doing something you've never done, like moving in a new way, living in a new way, I think it's the novelty, but it's also the simplicity of it. Like my favorite times in life are when your whole world boils down to like eat, sleep, and activity. Whether that's like on the bicycle trip where you eat, sleep, and ride a bike, or you eat, sleep, and sail, or you eat, sleep, and ride a horse, or you eat, sleep, and climb a mountain. It's that when your life boils down to being so simple, I just find that so fulfilling. Like I get lost in the city, and even now, right? Like I come out of the lodge, I've got 2 weeks, and there's so many people I want to call and chat with and catch up with, but there's so many people here I want to chat with, but there's so many, like I also want to like go mountain biking, pack rafting, and rock climbing. So it's like there's so much, it's too much. But if you if you go to Mount Logan, for example, like you're not calling anyone, you're not like it just cuts out so many options that you can just focus on what's in front of you, because there's no distraction, there's no static, right? It's just simple.
You like removing all of the other stuff, because then you just like don't like making choices.
Maybe that's it.
You only have the choice that's just you have to climb, you have to get out of here, you have to ride your bike because you got to get to the place or whatever it is, right?
Yeah, like that actually sounds very accurate. Limited choices makes for a simple, happy brain, maybe. Like because I want to do everything all at once, all the time.
Would you? Well, I know you've had some long-term girlfriends and stuff, partners. Mm-hmm. Are you looking for someone that wants the same thing like that? Like that wants to be doing those kind of things? Are you looking for someone that is the opposite to pull you away from it a little bit? Or like, what are you trying to look for in someone, or have you figured that out?
Yeah, that one, I find, I don't know. I don't know. I bounce back and forth sometimes. Like there's times where, and I think more often than not, I'm like, I would freaking love it if I had an adventure partner that just, we went everywhere together, you know? Like not everywhere, but like we could work a summer contract together in Clockwell. And then when that's over, you know, like we'd go mountain biking and rock climbing in Moab for the fall. And then, you know, maybe she'd go see her family and I'd go see, you know, you guys. And then we'd meet back together on a ship in Antarctica. And then in the spring, we'd do a little trip to Patagonia since we're down there. And then, like, she'd meet her friends in Mexico for a surf trip. And then I would meet some friends in Greece for a climbing trip. And then we'd meet back again, you know? Like, that would be amazing. To share all this life and all these experiences with someone, I think is the dream. Because it's, like, one, I find it hard to share what I'm doing and to catch up on things. Okay. Like, with someone that's not there. And it's also, I just get so into where I am and what I'm doing that no matter how much I love that person, if they're not there, they're not there. You know, they're in a different world. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think that's the dream.
Well, when you describe this person, you're kind of saying there are times that they would do their own thing.
Yeah.
And you'd be able to do your own thing. What if you found somebody that was like, I want to do all the things you're doing with you all the time. I'll come with you to see your friends. I'll come with you to Patagonia. Let's go on the boat together. Let's do that. Let's plan a climbing trip where we climb a mountain together. Let's do that together. Everything was together. Would that be too much? Do you require that alone time?
Definitely require some alone time, but that could be like a day or even 2 hours, you know? So if I found a person that wanted to come everywhere with me all the time, I think that'd be pretty freaking awesome.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah.
I did not expect that answer, if I'm being honest.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's cool.
I think I spent, like my 20s, I spent so much time alone, traveling and wandering and just like, I was like, I'm going to go do this thing. And then often I was like, does anyone want to come? And then, you know, no one could or wanted to. And I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to go do it. And I feel like not only am I kind of over that, like I spent my time alone. I figured out who I was, what I wanted, what I like. So I feel like I don't need to spend time alone. I also just generally don't like being alone for too long. And also a lot of the things I do these days, it's like you need a partner. Like climbing, sure, I can climb alone a little bit, but if I want to do anything cool, it's probably good to take a rope and have someone make it a team sport, right? Like mountaineering, mountain biking even, like I'll ride my bike alone, but if I'm riding with friends, I'll have more fun, I'll go faster, I'll hit jumps, you know? Pack rafting, like, sure, I can do that alone, but I probably shouldn't be going down whitewater by myself, you know? So it's like shared experience and safety.
Right.
And everything's better with a friend, you know, like food tastes better. The experience is better. Yeah.
So that concept of someone who would want to do all those things with you probably doesn't exist. That's like, I want to do all the same things that you want to do. So somewhere in between is probably where you're going to land. And that's what you were saying. It's like they eventually got to do their own things. You got to do your own things.
Yeah.
But you could still do a lot together, right?
That's right. That seems more realistic. And I mean, for sure, I would love someone to be like, let's do this thing that you've never done before. Let's go to this place you've never even thought of, right? You follow me around. Like that would be very exciting.
And what about kids? Would you ever want to have your own kids? kid or kids?
Yeah, I think in my core, I'm like, no, not interested. I think a lot of it because they're loud, they require a lot of attention and they break easy. And that just like doesn't really fit with my lifestyle. I am also, I don't know, I'm not a very paternal person, I guess. But at the same time, like, yeah, like my nieces and nephews, right? When we're doing something fun, or when I do see them, it is nice to see them, Like Sophie's daughter, Amelia, like me and her were best buddies. And she was annoying as hell sometimes. But she was also, like, the best. So,
Yeah,
I don't know. I think I can enjoy children, but generally I don't. So I don't.
What about in like 25 years?
5 years.
Do you think you'll regret not having kids?
I don't know. It's interesting because on the ships in Antarctica, like sometimes I see ghosts of Mark's future, like an old expedition guide, that's 60, 65 or whatever. And like I think of this one guy in particular, his name was Russ, and he's got like a polar medal for all the work he's done in Antarctica and everything. But like, he's got no family, he's got no partner. He drank every night, and like, he'd try to like schmooze, like pick up some of the ladies at the bar, and it was kind of like borderline gross. Like, it wasn't even borderline, like, it was like, dude, that's very unprofessional and also sleazy. But... So yeah, sometimes you meet people like that, and you're like, wow, when he talks about his adventures and everything, you're like, that's the sickest shit ever. I want to be just like this guy. And then you see him like a lonely man drinking at the bar, like, and you're like, oh, is that my future? You're kind of like, ooh.
Yeah.
And then I've got other friends, right? Like a buddy here that I went biking with the other day. Like I think he's turning 60 this year. But he's got 2 kids and like they're older now. So like when he goes biking often, he'll bring his son. He'll be like, yo, let's go mountain biking. And they go mountain biking together. And then go watch a movie and then like, grab a burger and have a couple beers and then they go home. And it's like, that's freaking awesome. So, yeah, I don't know if I'll regret it or not. It could go both ways, right? Like, who knows what happens in life. I think if I was alone in 25 years, I think that, like, I already get lonely sometimes. So, like, that would be lonely. But I don't think I would need or want kids in order to feel fulfilled,
Yeah.
Plus, you guys have so many children these days anyway.
That's true. You can be the cool uncle. And they can, all of your nieces and nephews all can fulfill that for you.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I mean, it totally does seem like you love kids because you're really good with them, but you just don't want them for yourself.
Yeah, that's right.
There was a woman I was listening to on a podcast the other day, and she was talking about having like no father figure in her life.
Mm-hmm.
So she just like Craigslisted an ad saying like, I want a dad as like a pen pal and stuff.
Right.
Talk to on the phone and just hang out. And then she got one. And she said it was an amazing experience. And she's like, I still talk to him to this day. Like, he's been my dad for like the last 10 years or something. And they talk on the phone all the time. She texts him. I don't know if they've ever met because I think he's like across the world.
Right.
Would you be up for something like that?
Like the hair on the back of my neck is standing up. It's kind of like gives me the weirdos. Maybe not like a father figure because I don't feel like a father figure, but maybe like a mentor. Like I enjoy teaching and introducing people and fostering growth into whatever I can give, but I don't feel like I would have much to give or want to give in the way of like I don't know, just being a person.
Interesting.
You got another segment, Lee? You want to do a segment? Good time for a segment.
Absolutely.
Going down memory lane.
That's right, baby. We going down memory lane. All right, Broph. We're going down memory lane.
Okay.
I'm gonna say a bunch of words. You stop me once you know what memory I'm talking about. Okay, ready?
Okay. Yep.
Biking, Canada Day,
To Niagara Falls.
G-Man,
Yeah, I got it.
and biking to Niagara Falls on Canada Day. That's right.
Yeah, buddy.
Can you please tell this memory and what you remember of it, and I'll try to fill in the gaps.
Okay, so my memory of that is I don't know where we started from. Did we start from Burlington? And
Yep, we started from Burlington.
Did we? Okay, a bunch of us rode our bikes to Niagara Falls. We were gonna ride there and watch the fireworks, and then we were gonna sleep somewhere, and then ride home. I think the big thing, I think the big goal was to see the fireworks.
Right.
And then we rode our bikes there. And the biggest memory for me is everyone being kind of slow, but also like Dave falling off his bike because he was like
Yeah.
tired or low on sugar or whatever. And then did his dad come and pick him up or something?
Yep.
Yeah, and then we got to Niagara Falls, and we missed the fireworks. I think we were late
By like 20 minutes.
by 20 minutes. Yeah, which is upsetting. And then we all fell asleep on the grass near the casino, and we all just had like a towel to sleep under, and it was so cold, and like the mist off the waterfall. We were wet, so we were so cold all night. Then in the morning, we all like laid out on the hot pavement to try to like soak in as much heat as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember, I think we clogged like 3 toilets on the way out.
We did, yeah.
It was Lawson first.
I think like simultaneously.
Yeah, that's right, because like someone went to the washroom and came out and was like, yo, we gotta go. And we were like, and I was like, no, I gotta use the washroom next. And they're like, no, we gotta go. And then that happened like 3 times. And then I think we rode home. Did we ride all the way home?
We did, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so we rode, it was the 4 of us. It was supposed to be 5.
Was it
Kieran
me,
was
you,
supposed to come.
Lawson, and Dave?
Yeah. And Kieran was supposed to come. I think we invited everyone, but like not many people were that interested in doing it.
Yeah.
And it was funny because me and Husick had a great idea. We're like, hey, like 2 days before the big ride, we should go down to bike to Lakeshore and back. So we biked to Lakeshore,
Training.
biked the whole path, and then came back.
Right.
And by the Friday or whatever that we were supposed to go to Niagara Falls on, we were exhausted. Like our muscles were still sore. It was so dumb. So that was part of the reason why Husick couldn't make it. He was such a wimp. But me, tough guy, I made it through.
Yeah.
But another thing too is we went on the way to Niagara Falls. You kept getting a flat tire, or you got a flat tire.
Oh,
And then so we
right.
went knocking door to door,
The G-Man
trying to find somebody that would give us a pump.
in the garage.
And then there was this man that was like, "Oh, I've got a pump.
Yeah,
Come
that's
meet
right.
me in my garage."
Yeah.
Oh my god.
While his hand is down his pants and he's
Was
just
that-
fiddling with himself.
Was that me and you in there?
That was
in the
me and you,
garage?
yeah, because Lawson and Husick went to go get pizza.
That's right.
Yeah.
And
So
did
we
he,
came in the garage, and then he started
did he try to
closing it
close
on
the
us.
garage? Yeah, that was
Yeah. And then we're like, whoa. And then we just like stopped him and we're like, okay, you know what? We don't need the pump. And then he was like, no, here, like I could patch your tire or whatever.
Yeah, that's right.
And then we just wanted to hightail it out of there. But he ended up giving us a pump.
right.
And then you just
Wait.
pumped like
What
every
kind of
half an hour.
Sorry, what kind of pump did this guy give the both of you in the garage?
Lots of pumps.
Lots of pump.
Okay.
Did he give us the pump and I would just pump my tire?
He
every,
gave us
like,
the pump, yeah.
10 minutes or something? Really? Yeah.
But his
Man,
wife came out too. Like, there's so many things like so many parts of this story that's so bizarre.
Yeah, that was weird.
This old man invites us to his garage, says he can like patch our tire for us, and then starts closing the garage door on us, and we're like, okay, we need to get out of here. His wife comes out, asks like how we're doing, and then we're just like, oh, we're just gonna take off. And then he gives us a pump.
Yeah.
And then we just use that pump. Like, and you were a trooper, man. You like pumped every few minutes, every time like it would go flat nonstop. I remember pulling
That's what
over
I was going
like
to ask,
because
like a flat tire must be continuously getting flat, and the solution is just to keep pumping it
and everything was closed because I wanted to go to a gas station, and then there's those like aerosol cans that you can just shove into a tire, and it seals it. It just like shoots out glue.
Yeah.
And that would have sealed it.
Right.
But everything was closed, including gas stations for some reason. That blew my mind.
That's right. I remember that. Everything was closed.
That made no sense to me. But yeah, we just missed the fireworks by like 20 minutes. We're running down the hill with our bikes. There's so many people. Right. And then we're like, hey, where are the fireworks? And they're like, oh, they just finished.
Right. Yeah.
And we're like, what?
Damn it.
This whole ride, we started at noon, and the fireworks were at 10. And this was like 10:20 or something. Or they finished at 10 or something.
And then, like, didn't we, like, talk about maybe getting a hotel room or something, or a motel room, but we didn't, just because we were all cheap or had no money.
Yeah, I don't think we had the money to afford that anyways.
Yeah.
But I was the only person who brought a blanket.
Right.
And I had the thinnest little fleece blanket. It's probably like 4 feet by 4 feet. Because I just rolled it up. It's like rolled it up like a towel. And then the four of us shared it, sleeping on the hill. It's ridiculous. But yeah, I also remember Husick like biking up the hill and then just like falling over.
Yeah.
I remember he was whining, and then we were just like, dude, just keep going. And then he just fell.
Fucking Dave, what a great
we were such
guy.
Douchebags. We were convinced.
Yeah.
He just did it to stop riding.
We were jerks. We
weren't even like, hey man, are you doing okay?
Yeah, that's right. We're just like, shut up, ride faster.
Yeah, just keep going.
Keep going. Yeah.
I called his dad in the morning to pick him up.
That's right. Yeah.
I remember I biked back to Yvette's house, and then I had dinner with her family. And then I was like, hey guys, I gotta tell you that my ass has a rash on it. I can't even wipe my ass right now. Because I've just been on a bicycle for like 20 hours. Oh, it hurts just thinking about it, man.
Oh, man. I'm glad I was not available or said no.
I don't think you were willing. Yeah, you're like, that sounds terrible. Biking to Niagara.
Yeah,
like
you were available.
Kilometers one way.
You were available. You were just smart.
It's a great memory, though. I love it.
Yeah.
I love that when I woke up, I like didn't know where you were, Brophy, and you were across the street laying on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Because you were so cold, and that sidewalk across the street had some sun on it.
This tiny patch of sun.
So you're just trying to warm up, and then all these people trying to go like to Clifton Hill are just walking around you. This teenager just sleeping on the sidewalk. A bunch of people just walking around you.
Oh man,
it's ridiculous.
They for sure.
Or not Clifton Hill, the casino. The casino.
Cracked out or something.
Oh man.
It was funny. Some people we were chatting at the lodge the other day, and people were like, "So, like, like, what kind of trouble did you get into when you were young?" And I was like, "We got into like, I don't know, like useless dumb trouble, like playing dodgeball on the roof of a school, or like, riding our bikes for 10 hours and then sleeping on a lawn and being really cold, like, or taking
out onto Lake Ontario.
That's right, taking a raft or the canoe out at like 2 a.m, or like when the big storm came and they said don't go to the boardwalk, we went to the boardwalk and ran under the waves.
Oh my god, that was the other memory I was gonna say.
Poseidon.
It's the Poseidon memory. But I think I'm gonna save that for one of our other friends.
That was funny. That was actually such a cool night, though, hey, when those waves were breaking over and we were, like, running through them. We were, like, getting pitted like a surfer, but on land.
Personally, I hated it. I was I don't want to be here. This is so frightening. And you and Evans were just like, let's go, we're going. And then you guys just took off.
Oh, dude,
and then we just like, we're like, okay, I guess we have to follow.
Yeah,
and then everyone folled.
Was it you that got like knocked over by the wave?
Oh, yeah.
And your hands
I was like, save me. Okay, I was so cold. It was like a hurricane warning.
That's right. Yeah.
So we had like hurricane weather. Like waves are crashing up against the wall and like going like 20 to 30 feet in the air.
Yeah.
Like it was so windy.
Yeah.
And then so we were like, let's go into the pier where there's like 3 walls around it. So we all stand in the pier. Wave hits the wall, crashes over, and then just like knocks us all down off of our feet. But my hands were like inside my sweater. Because I was so cold.
That's right.
That when I got knocked under, I like couldn't breathe and I was just face down into this water.
That's right.
And then like it was like slowly like draining, and I'm at this point I'm like just drinking water. And I'm like on the ground just looking like a little fish, and I'm just like, help me! Help me!
Yeah.
Because I literally could not move my arms from out of my sweater. And then I just remember hearing you laugh.
Yeah.
And then you just picked me up from the shirt. And was like, get up, buddy. What the hell's wrong with you? But I had swallowed so much water at that point, and I was actually really scared. Just not being able to move.
Right, and my arms were realize.
Just, completely.
And I had no idea you had your hands in your sweater. I was like, "Why is that just lying in a puddle? Like, what's wrong with this?
Like, help me! I can't breathe."
It's like, what are you doing? Get up!
All it takes is for one of you to just go over the wall or just get knocked in, and
you'd
pretty much be dead.
Yeah.
Like,
for sure.
It would be very difficult.
Over, man.
Yeah, it was a crazy night.
It was really
big
fun.
props to Britt, though. I think Britt was the only girl there. She was a beast.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you for joining me, going down memory lane.
That's good. It's always fun going down memory lane with you, especially because you remember so much more than me.
Yeah, when you were going through the story, I was like, man, you forget so much of this.
Yeah.
But to be fair, you also have way, way more life experiences that should be more memorable.
All right, let's switch gears. I want to ask you about your mountain climbing trip that you did to Logan.
Okay.
Mount Logan.
Yeah.
So what was this a part of, did you do it as a part of one of your guide things? Like you had to plan a trip like this or something? How did it all start?
Yeah, so when I was at TRU doing the adventure school, the first year there's a trip called, there's some course, expedition planning, I think it was called. And the final project for that was to design and plan and organize a dream trip, right? A dream expedition. So everyone chose whatever, and you can do it with a partner or by yourself or whatever. And
what kind of trips did other people plan? Like yours was obviously climbing a mountain. Like what other kind of things would there be that would be applicable?
So one of my buddies did climbing Mount Thor up on Baffin Island, which would be it's like a big wall climb, so you'd be sleeping on the side of the wall, and it takes a bit to get there, right?
Oh, okay.
You'd fly into Iqaluit, and then you'd have to hike, or I guess you go to Pangertum, and then from there you take boat or walk or whatever to the base, and then I think it's a 3 or 4 day climb or something, and then you'd have to get back. Other people did a kayak trip, circumnavigating, let's say, Clayoquot Sound, or doing the northern tip of Vancouver Island or something like that. Just those kind of things. Or maybe a rafting trip.
But they were all a rafting trip? Yeah.
Yeah, maybe rafting the Touch and Chinielsic rivers, which is a 10-day paddle trip going Yukon, BC, Alaska. That's what we did last summer, actually. Me and my friends in the paddle.
Okay, sweet. So your plan was to do Logan.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
What's involved in planning a big climb like Logan?
Yeah, I guess the first is, how do you want to do it, right? Because there's multiple ways that it can be pure mountaineering. We decided to go the ski mountaineering route, where we skied up and skied down, right? But there's also like I believe it's the Northeast Ridge and the Hummingbird Ridge. And those, you wouldn't ski them, you'd just be climbing. So yeah, you decide, first what you want to do, then which route you want to do, and then how do you get there, right? Are you going to ski in, which takes an extra 3 weeks, or are you going to fly in, which costs you $1,000 each or $2,000 each or whatever, right? So it's like, do we have time or money? And then
when you say skiing in, you mean like cross country skiing in?
Not cross country. We take our touring skis, but you'd be mostly going flat, like skiing from Haines Junction into Logan, which was a 1 hour, 1.5 hour flight, or like a 3-week ski, mostly on flats, but also glaciated terrains. Yeah, and then after that, once you decide what your route is, how you're going to get there, then it's like, okay, what's the team, right? Who's coming? What skills do we all have? Then it comes down to gear. Then it comes down to cost. And then there's also, like for Logan, there's permitting, right? Like you have to get a permit to climb Logan. You have to get a permit to land a plane at base camp. So we have to get those permits. And then with Logan, like it's a big deal, right? Like it's a serious mountain. So we had to provide resumes and like proof that we could climb it. Yeah, like they wouldn't just approve anybody. It was interesting actually because so this was all the first year was all like planning it, and then at the end of TRU, at the end of my second year, I was like, okay, well we have a plan. Like I kind of want to do something big to sum up the year and like test all these skills we've learned, right? Who wants to actually do this, right? And then when we actually applied for the permit, it was neat because the guy got back to me and he was like, you guys don't have tons of big mountain experience. Like you've got a little bit and you've done a lot of courses and everything. Usually I would say no, like I would deny your permit. But because the expedition plan, which I submitted to him as well, was so good and so detailed, he was like, that's why I'm letting you guys do this. And he was basically like, don't screw it up.
That's pretty sick.
Yeah, so that was really cool, actually. Because that was a worry, was that we would plan this whole thing and that some guy in an office would be like, yeah, nah, because they can do that. Did it worry you at all? Like that was the feedback? That you guys don't really have enough experience for this? I don't think it worried me or fazed me because I knew what we had all done and I knew that we'd never done anything like this. So, like, I half expected him to deny us, but I also was fairly confident that we had the skills, we had the equipment, we planned well enough. And we also, had backups, right? Like we had in reaches, like if something went terribly wrong, if we got there and we are in way over our head, we could communicate with the outside world, right? And be like, you got to come pick us up. We fucked up, But I was pretty confident in us. Like I knew it was going to be the biggest, hardest thing that I'd ever done, but I also was so sure of just us as a collective that we could pull it.
Okay, and then the economics behind it all, like how much does something like that costs to do? Do you have to buy all the equipment? Do you rent the equipment?
A lot of it we already had, like personally, right? Like I've already got skis, probe, shovel, stove, all this stuff. We borrowed a lot of gear from the school, like from the gear bay that they have for the university. So like we borrowed really nice 4-season mountaineering tents, which are expensive. So to borrow those for free was great. And then a lot, like all the food, right? We just made our own dehydrated food for everything, which took a lot of time, but it was worth it. And then the most expensive part was the flights flying in from Silver City, I think it's called, to base camp. Like, that was a lot. I could pull up the expedition plan now. I'm trying to remember how much it was. I think it was like $2,000 per person, and I think we got half of it sponsored. So I think it only cost us $1,000 per person.
Who sponsored you?
A couple companies gave us deals, or like deals on either gear or food. Some people gave us free stuff, and then we also put it out to like friends and family, and people pitched in. Like some people would, like, you know, someone paid for the gas to get us there, or some people paid for our toboggans, and then we also got a bit of money from a couple grocery stores, a couple local gas stations. Yeah.
Okay. And then training for something like this, what's involved in that? I assume you have to train to be prepared for it all.
Yeah, totally. We didn't do too much training. You still there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. But while we're here, I'm going to quickly BRB.
Okay. Wait, should I stop?
No.
Okay. Yeah. So Logan is a marathon, right? It's a big trip. It's a lot of uphill. Like, your base camp's at something around 2,000 meters, and the summit's around like 5,959, so just under 6,000. So you're basically 4,000 meters of vertical, right? It's a lot of up, and you're carrying heavy loads.
Yeah.
So
Right.
a lot of it was just endurance training, right? But our lives at that point, like, every free moment we had, we were going skiing or climbing or running or mountain biking or something. So there wasn't too much training. I think the biggest thing that we did was gear testing. Like, we did a couple trips where we just go for a weekend, like one night or 2 nights or whatever, and we take all our gear like we were packing for Logan and just practice setting up the tent, and how would we sleep, and how would we like boil tea inside the tent, and how would we set up the cook shack, and like, how do you ski with a toboggan with 100 pounds in it?
Right.
You know, like that was more about gear testing than training. The one thing that would have helped us a lot was altitude training, right? Because anything over 2,000 meters, you can start getting altitude sick, and you're going to 6,000-ish. So that would have been very helpful, but we didn't.
How do you do that?
Just exposure. So general is kind of like it's like carry high, sleep low. So maybe you'd start at, like, let's say you start at 2,000 meters, and your next camp is at 2,500, right? So you would like go up to, maybe you'd hike up to 3,000 meters. You'd hang out for a little bit, and then you'd come back down and sleep at 2,000, or sleep at 2,500. And then the next day you would go a little higher, right? You'd go up to 4,000 meters, but then come back to 2,500, right? So you're dipping your
not
toes.
At Logan, at different mountains.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. Or like, we could have gone to, like, let's say Mount Robson, right, which is like 3,800 meters. We could have gone there, hiked up to the top, and then come down, you know, or camped up on Robson somewhere, you know, for 2 days or 3 days, just to acclimatize yourself to that elevation. But it's tricky because
how long does that like acclimation last for?
Yeah, exactly. Like, not super long, right? So, but it's also just dealing with how it feels as well.
Okay.
But yeah, I guess
just getting used to that feeling, and then overcoming it, and then
understanding how it feels. Understanding, okay, if I feel this way, what happens if I stay at this elevation? What happens if I go lower? What happens if I go higher, right? So we could have done more of that, but the way we climbed the mountain was pretty good, and you build your acclimatization into it. So like the carry high, sleep low thing, right? Like we would start at base camp. We would carry all of our gear, all gear we didn't need, like extra food, extra fuel, stuff like that, carried up to Camp 1. We'd bury it at Camp 1. We'd go back down to base camp. We'd sleep there, right? So you've exposed yourself to Camp 1 elevation, but you're sleeping down below again. And then the next night, you would move up to Camp 1 and sleep there. Then you would carry to Camp 2, come back to Camp 1, and then so on, so on.
Is it, you said you buried your equipment up there. Is it like there's an obvious path and you like will know where your stuff is? How do you mark where your stuff is?
Right, so we'd bring like tomato stakes to stake it out. But we also had GPSs, right? So we would GPS our caches.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So not too big of a risk of really losing where that position was.
No, not really. I mean, for sure it could happen, right? Like you could be some kind of failure, or your tomato stakes could get buried by snow. But we had no problems.
Didn't you say before that for training you guys filled your packs up with flour or something?
Yeah.
Just to like keep...
That's right, actually. Yeah. There'd be some days where we'd just fill a backpack with like whatever things we had in the kitchen, like rice, flour, whatever. I just load up a pack as much as it could take and then just like walk around the neighborhood for an hour. Just to like get the back and
just
the shoulders
to, like,
and the neck, just to carry
heavy
loads.
Back. Right.
Yeah, that's right, actually. That was funny. It's funny too because like you're doing this thing with purpose and you're training for something, but like to people walking their dogs, they're like, what is this guy doing?
Yeah. You're walking like past grocery stores and stuff and people are like, where are you going with that pack?
That's right.
Like,
and like I'd try to find stairs, you know, to like get some elevation on it too. And man, it's pretty frustrating though. And like, I hate training. I am the worst. Like, I love doing, and I always think to myself, by doing, I'm training, but
doing
you're
with purpose.
Not. Yeah, so it's like, I hate training. I'm like, why would I walk around with a heavy backpack full of rice? Why would I walk around my neighborhood when I could just like go ski? You know, it's like, why would I do that to myself? But it's so good, and you need to do all that like cross training, specific training, because just doing isn't training, which I'm like slowly realizing.
All of that stuff you were saying, like you were practicing in the tents and stuff, like was that stuff that you had learned in your adventure schooling, like that this is how you should do these kind of things, or is this like you just kind of figure it out?
Bit of both, right? Like some tips and tricks you learn from the mountain guides that you were on course with, or you learn from another like person who had a good trick. But a lot of it was just like trial and error, you know. It's like okay, there's 3 of us in this 4-man tent. How do we get in and out without knocking snow everywhere? You know, like how do we live comfortably? Like, where do all our backpacks go? Do they go inside? Do they stay in the vestibule? Do they get tarped outside? Like, a lot of it was something that no one can teach you. It was just things that you have to go through the motions, right? You have to just do it.
So tell us about the climb when you actually were doing everything. So you said you would bring your stuff up and then you would sleep lower on the first couple base camps. Like, how far up are the base camps and everything? How does that all work?
So for Logan, there's base camp and then camp 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the summit. So in theory, if it was a perfect world and perfect weather and everything, you'd go like base camp to 1, back to base camp, move to 1, from 1 to 2, back to 1, sleep, and then up to 2, right? So like it would be that carry high, sleep low, move high, carry high, sleep low, move high. But I mean, that never really works like that. And Logan's notorious for big storms, right? So we stayed at camp 1. No, we went from base camp and then we went straight to camp 1. We didn't do a carry-in back down. We got up to Camp 2 like we should have. We carried high, went back to 1, then went up to 2. And we got stormed at Camp 2 for 8 days, which was both like maddening, but also probably good for, like acclimatization. Yeah. And actually,
when you when you guys are making these decisions, is there like one of you is the lead? How do you guys make decisions as a team together?
It was a lot of it's very consensus based. It was kind of like the small decisions were majority rules, but the high consequence decisions were like, we need everyone to say yes on this, And
you just talk everything through?
Yeah, we'd talk it all through. There were some decisions are super obvious, right? Like you wake up in the morning and it's full whiteout, blowing snow sideways, so windy, You're like, well, clearly we're not skiing today, One of the hardest days for decision making was we were stormed at Camp 2 for, I think it was 5 days. And then we had one good weather day and then 2 more storm days coming. So we were like, okay, we got to progress up the mountain, right? Because we're probably going to get stormed again. And if we take too many storm days, then we just won't have enough food to make it to the top and back. So during that one good day of weather, right, above Camp 2, there's a really steep slope to get to Camp 3. And that's a major avalanche slope. And with all that fresh snow that had just loaded over the past 5 days, it didn't have time to settle. And yeah, that was a big one because we were like, okay, we have the weather, but avalanche conditions are unstable, right? So we did a bunch of snow tests that we learned from our avalanche training, and then we kind of we decided not to go because we figured it was too unstable. And you look at the run out too and the consequence, it's like, if you get avalanched anywhere, even if it's in your backyard, like that's going to ruin your day, and depending on the size of it, you might survive, you might not, your friend's got to bury you out, all this shit. But on a place like Logan, where the mountain is freaking massive, like it's literally the largest massif in the world. So if something avalanches there, like who knows how far that could propagate up or sideways or anything. Like that could take out the whole valley, right? So it's not the type of place where you're taking big risk. So we decided not to go that day. And then we got stormed for another 2. And then it settled. And then we actually, because it was summertime and we had sunlight basically all through the night, 24-hour daylight, we ended up skiing up that section at like 3 in the morning, I think, when it was really cold and more solid. So it was harder to ski because it was more solid and icy, but it was more stable as well. So
when you're snowed in for like 5 days or however long it was,
yeah,
what do you do? What were you guys doing up there?
We slept a lot. Everyone brought a book. Everyone brought one book. I ended up reading all of the books by the end of the trip. We had we had Sudokus, so we'd do the Sudokus. That was freaking hilarious because we'd all pile in one tent and like play cards or like do a Sudoku together or whatever. And we were so impressed at how good we were at Sudokus, right? Like we nailed it every time. Like even the extreme difficult ones, we would get them. And then at the end of the trip, when we got back down to base camp, we looked at we opened it up to do another one, and we looked at the past one, and there's like 8 9s in the same square. We're like, oh.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna say it was a beginner book.
No, we were just terrible at it. Like we were so.
No, that's the altitude sickness. Just
yeah,
no one knew what they were doing, and you guys were all like, "We're the best at everything."
100%, man. We were like high off our trees. We had no idea what was going on. But yeah, Sudokus, card games, reading books. It also was just a lot of work to live. Like you gotta collect snow, boil that into water, You got to do that enough to satisfy the thirst of 5 people. Plus, all your food's dehydrated, so you need enough water to rehydrate the food. Rehydrating the food, that takes time, right? Because you're melting snow into water, then you're boiling it, then you're soaking your food for like half hour, then you're reheating it, right? So everything is such a process. And while it's storming outside, like that's covering your tent in snow and like filling in your snow walls constantly. Like the rule was, if you went outside for any reason, you had to dig out the tent. Because if your tent gets so covered in snow, right, you just end up suffocating.
Right.
So whenever you go outside, it would take a half hour to an hour every time you went outside to dig the tents, because we had 2 tents and a cook shack. So you had to dig all that out, right? And then even simple things, right? Like if you just to go take a dump, like you're wearing so many clothes and your ski boots and everything, and you gotta like find it. So even that takes like it's like if you gotta poop, you're like, okay, it's like 30 minutes of your day, to like gear up, put your goggles on, like get your ski poles, like and go do it and then come back, right? So just living took a lot of time. So you'd think you'd have infinite free time, but you actually don't.
Is it hard to stay warm?
It wasn't. As long as you got good gear and good systems, you're pretty good. For me, the only thing was my feet. My feet would get cold and my hands would get cold. Like setting up tents or making dinner, playing with like the stove, like cooking on the stove. Like you kind of gotta have bare hands for that in order to have the dexterity. But at the same time, if your hands are exposed for like, I don't know, 5 minutes, sometimes on some of those storm days, like it's like -30, like you're gonna freaking lose your hands, right? So for me, my hands and feet were.
That's tough. All right, so how high up did you guys end up getting?
To the top. We got to the summit,
which
was 5,959 meters.
Jeez.
Yeah, so it was it was 22 days. So
to the top or the whole trip?
22 days full trip. Okay. So we landed at base camp, went to camp 1, went up to 2, came back down, went to 2 again. That first night at camp 2, actually, I got super altitude sick. Like I was in a rough shape. It felt like at first it was just a headache. And then I woke up in the middle of the night. I couldn't get back to sleep. I had like a killer headache. I felt like nauseous. I also like had like all these weird like mind games. Like I got so dark. I was like, oh, this trip is over. Like you bit off more than you can chew. And now because you're weak, like all your friends have to turn around and cancel this trip. And then it was like, I had these thoughts of like, I should just ski off by myself and disappear so that they can continue their trip, just like weird things like that.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it was wild, man. But I ended up just like hanging out in the cook shack, boiling water and just like keeping myself busy until someone else woke up. And I was like, I'm having a rough time. I need to go down, right? So me and one of my buddies, we went back down to camp 1. We took 1 tent. We slept down there for 1 night. I felt infinitely better. And then we went right back up to camp 2, and I was good for the rest of the trip. But actually, that was wild too, because the 2 of us, on our way back up to camp 2 to meet up with our friends, we knew weather was coming in, but it came in faster than it should have. And we ended up in this whiteout, just the 2 of us. And like we were tied together on a rope, maybe 15 meters apart, 20 meters apart. And we could not see each other.
Jeez.
Yeah. And the wind was
scary.
Freaking howling, man. And it got cold. Like it was one of those days where it got down to like -30. The snow is coming in sideways at you. And it's crazy because like at first you're like, oh shit, right? Like this is how people die in the mountains, right? So you've got these thoughts in your head of like, okay, like, your brain kicks into overdrive and you start like, thinking really fast and starting to like make all these like dumb half-cooked plans. And then at one point I was like, okay, I just need to like stop. I'm gonna get cold. I need to put another layer on, right? So I put on my down pants, my down jacket. I put my goggles on. I put on like 3 buffs. I put my toque on, and I was totally weatherproof at that point. You know, I was warm. The snow wasn't in my eyes. The wind didn't affect me. And at that point, it was so cool because everything just calmed right down, right? You're like, okay, I'm not being destroyed by the elements. Like, I'm better than this. I'm fine. I'm comfortable. I'm warm. And then we made like a plan. We started following the compass, following the GPS tracks we had. And what should have taken probably like 2 hours took us like 8 hours or something. Yeah, just following tracks. And we finally made it back to camp with our friends. They came out, we set up the tent again, and then we got stormed for those extra like 6 days or 8 days or whatever. And then after that, we had that one day up to Camp 3. We got stormed there for like 3 days or something. And then we were running out of time, so we skipped Camp 4 entirely, went right to 5, and then summit back to Camp 5. And then the next day we skied all the way from Camp 5, all the way up to base camp, which was awesome, because that was like 3,000 meters of vert coming down on skis. And like, some of it was great. Some of it was below our pow, like the best skiing of my life. And you can see like glaciers, granite forever. You know, it's like what dreams are made of. And some of it was just like icy shit, and your toboggan is like if it's not super steep, you can ski with your toboggan behind you, right? Like full of gear, super heavy. And it just like glides behind you and you do your nice turns and everything. But if it's steep, you have your toboggan in front of you and you do your turns behind it, right? Just so it's out of the way.
Right.
But it's hilarious because there'd be these transition points, right? Where it's like not so steep, and then you'd finally like roll over and you'd be skiing, just having a good time in your own brain, looking at these mountains. And then all of a sudden your toboggan just like takes you out from nowhere. Just like torpedoes down and catches you, and you just get wrecked. It just takes you out at the feet, and then you like fall like 200 meters or something. You finally stop yourself and you're like, shit. And then you ski with your toboggan in front of you. Yeah, go ahead.
How long was that whole skiing down the hill?
From Camp 5 to base camp, I think was like a 14-hour day.
Holy cow.
Yeah. And the day before, summit day, I think was 14 or 16 hours as well. And then the day before that was also like a 14-hour day. So it was gnarly. Like, we were cooked by the end of it. But the cool part about coming down, right, is like every meter you come down, you feel better because you're more oxygenated, right? The air's getting thicker. So like, even though we're so tired, we're so amped up. And we also knew, like, at base camp, we buried tons of delicious food, like pancake mix, maple syrup, pierogies, blueberries. We baked brownies and cookies.
Oh, nice.
There was beer down there. So like, you're skiing down and you get closer and closer and you're like, oh yeah. So it didn't feel like we were cooked for sure by the end of it, but it didn't feel as long as it should have felt.
Well, you kind of glossed over this, but like, what is reaching the summit like? What was it like when you guys finally hit the top?
Oh man, for me it was emotional. Like I cried. It was mostly because like this has been a dream of mine for a long time, right? Like the first time I ever heard of Logan was at St. Mark's in elementary school. And on Canada Day, it was some like dumb trivia thing, or like before Canada Day. I don't know. Were we in school on Canada Day? Anyway, it was like a Canada Day trivia thing or whatever. Like, what's the tallest mountain in Canada? And I was like, I don't know why, because I didn't climb mountains or anything in elementary school. But I was like, I'm going to go there one day, you know? And then as I got more into like hiking, and that became like hiking steeper, and that became scrambling, which became mountaineering, which became rock climbing. I was like, I always had it in my head that one day I'm going to climb the tallest mountain in Canada, right? So to have it in your head for like 20 years, and then actually think about it for 10, but then legitimately plan it like you've never planned anything in your life before for 1 year, and then to finally like not just pull it off, but we styled it, man. Like we did good. Like we ate well, we did well. We didn't overpack, but we didn't underpack. To reach that summit with good friends was freaking awesome. And like when you get up there, right? Like it's right on the border of Alaska and the Yukon. So when you look out to the west northwest, you can see the ocean. You can see the Pacific Ocean. And if you're not looking at ocean, you're looking at glacier and granite for hundreds of kilometers. And they're all the biggest mountains in Canada and some of the biggest mountains in Alaska as well. So it's just absolute like landscape beauty overload. And then there's also the fact that like not only did you do it and do it well and everything, but you're also considering that there's so many people that didn't do it. You know, like that year when we did it, I think there was 7 parties on the mountain. 3 summited. No, there's more, because 3 summited, 3 got rescued, and I think 2 or 3 turned around because they didn't plan for enough food and couldn't wait out the storms like we could. So, you know, when like a third of the people trying to do it, and like we were a bunch of kids, right? Like we were a bunch of young people who had never done anything like this before. People that got rescued, like there were some guided parties that got rescued. There was guided parties that turned around with people, with clients that had paid a lot of money to get to the top of the mountain. And when they're turning around or they're failing or they're getting rescued off the mountain and you get to the top on your own steam, you know, and you're like, shit, like we're good, you know, like that feeling of not just success, but like triumphant, ecstatic success. Oh man, I was overwhelmed. I was in tears.
Were you guys all like screaming when you got up there, just like yelling for joy, or like
we were
what was all your reaction together?
It's funny because I remember what I'm remembering is the last bit to the summit is really steep. So your skis are on your back, right? You're carrying them up. Got your crampons, your ice axes. We're putting in snow stakes to like, and we're all clipped on the rope together. We go across that last like knife edge ridge. And I was kind of like mid pack at that point, and my buddy Chris, when we got close, and when we got to the final pitch, he was like, yo, you gotta go in front. And I was like, okay, you know? So I jumped in front and I got to be the first one up to the summit. And I remember being up there, just like pulling in the rope, you know, just like, and we were all so bagged. We were so tired. And everyone just like, we were coming up one by one, just like a stupid, exhausted smile, you know? And I don't think any of us had the energy to like yell or like jump or anything. The summit is also like, it's like a little tiny, it's like the size of like your deck, you know, where your barbecue is. It's like, it's not very big. And it's also on an angle. It's not flat. So you're not jumping too much because you might fall off the mountain. So but there's a lot of hugs, so there's a lot of high fives, there's a lot of like ice axes being thrust into the air, and then there was a lot of like photos, videos, and then we did a couple videos for like people that sponsored us or helped us out, you know, like some thank you stuff. And we stayed up there for, I think we only stayed up there for like 30 minutes or something, because it's a monster day, right? Like you got to get back.
Oh yeah.
And like you know another storm's coming, so you know you got to get your ass down. But yeah, man, it was wild. It might be one of the most like, it probably is the most emotional like experience I've had from any adventure. Like even surpassing like sailing across the ocean and like almost dying. You know, like there was definitely emotions there. But I think this is the most emotional moment of any adventure I've ever had.
That's pretty cool.
I gotta say, that was awesome to hear you talk about that, because you could really hear like how proud you were, like in your voice.
I'm still proud of it.
That was really cool. That was really cool to hear.
Yeah. It's a big deal. Like sometimes when I don't know when I think about it, or if someone says like, oh, what mountains do you like to climb or whatever, what have you climbed or whatever, and you say it, it's like it happened, and not only did we do it, but that was like 6 years ago now. I don't think about it much, so it's like something that happened in the past, that was really great. But it's a pretty big deal.
It's a big deal.
Yeah,
It's a very big deal.
yeah.
Have you thought about doing another climb somewhere else or anything, or do you think that's it?
Oh, absolutely. I would love to. Whenever I think about Logan or talk about Logan, like I just think of how beautiful that time was. Like obviously there was stress and struggle, and it had its major challenges. But yeah, if that was one of the best moments of my life, it's like, yeah, obviously I want to do something like that again. And I want to do like different things. I want to push myself in different ways. Like that was a ski touring trip, which is great, but how cool would it be to do something like that, but like pure mountaineering where it's steep all the time, when you're always with ice axe and crampons, when you're like on vertical faces putting in ice screws, or like mixed climbing. You'd be on the freaking edge of your seat for days on end.
Would you want to do something like Everest, or is that not appealing because of how commercial it's all become?
Yeah, Everest, I think in theory would be really cool, but in reality, like, why would I, one, pay $10,000 or more to climb a mountain, and two, like, why would I go to a place where there's so many other people, and not only other people, but like a lot of people that like probably shouldn't be there, and then like wait in line to climb a mountain? It's like, what are you talking about? No way.
Yeah.
Zero interest. And that's one of the beautiful things about Logan, right? Is like Denali is a little bit higher, 100 meters higher or whatever, just across the border. But it's like hundreds and hundreds of people climb that mountain every year. The cool thing about Logan is that you're out there. You're out there pretty much by yourself. Like you'll see other people here and there, but you're really in it. I guess
And that's just because of how difficult it is to climb?
Yeah, it's like, well, one, it's not the tallest, right? Which is what people want to do. But it's also way out there. Like it's hard to get to. It's hard to access. So that makes it expensive. It's off the beaten track. And it's also just a long, hard climb, and there's no guarantee on summiting, right? Like you could get weathered out, you could get injured, anything could happen. And then if you're gonna like go to Everest, a place that is populated, then you also have to dive into the whole like the mountaineer's code of like, if someone's sick and asks you for help and they're on the way down and you're on the way up, it's like, how do I deal with that? Which is...
What's the code to help them out?
No, the code is that you don't.
No, the code is to leave them.
Yeah.
It's dangerous to help other people on the mountain, like to the point that you're risking your life.
Yeah. The code is kind of
And it's all expensive, and it's like when you go up, that's the risk, is if you're on your own, and if you there's no one's going to help you and stuff.
Exactly. That's the real code. The code is you've decided to come here. You know the risks. You're on your own trip. I'm on my trip. I have no obligation to help you, right?
I see.
And like, yeah, it's like I think it's generally like a once in a lifetime opportunity to be doing it with good weather and all the stuff, like everything working out. So like, I'm not going to risk my once in a lifetime to save your once in a life, which is actually insane to say, but that's just the code, which is fucking crazy.
Well, you signed up for it. Yeah.
It's wild, man. And like, not to say that people that are paying a lot of money and going with a company and being guided up, not to say that they're not mountaineers in their own right, but also like, if someone hasn't been training, like, let's say properly, quote unquote, or like is paying their way up the mountain or something, and you're like, you're on your way up and they're on their way down, and they're like, help me, and you're like, really? Like, should you even be here?
Yeah. but
There's a lot going on. But they're there, and they're a freaking person that has a family and a life and like all this stuff, right? And then it's always like, okay, well, who knows? Maybe that'll be me in 2 hours. And if I ask someone for help and they say "fuck you," you're like, really? But it's like,
right. I think what is most unappealing, and I'm obviously not even a climber, and I probably would never even think about attempting doing something like that, but I hear it's like full of garbage and shit. Like people treat the mountain over there like it's just whatever it takes to get to the top, and that means leaving your trash, leaving your air canisters and shit like all over the place. And so like that's also like that would really ruin the experience, I imagine. Like, not only just all the people around you, but just like you're climbing this mountain and it's like you're climbing a mountain, but it's not a mountain anymore. It's like a path. It's like a trail that like people are just, I don't know, that feels so unrewarding at that point. It's like, well, whatever, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's getting a lot better. Like in the past, it was a lot of like, oh, whatever, we'll just ditch our stuff and it'll get buried in snow and eventually like, you know, it'll disappear. And then after decades of being on Everest, you know, they're like, oh, okay, the garbage doesn't just disappear. It actually stays here. So it's getting better because, like, now people are tired of it, right? So they're cleaning it up, and Everest has that reputation of being a garbage pile. So they're getting better at cleaning it, but it's still, like you say, there's still a lot of discarded junk and a disrespect at some level for the mountain, right? Because it's not, like, at its purity of mountaineering, it's not getting to the summit. It's about how you get to the summit, right? So.
Right. I think that's part of the problem is that I imagine it's more like, you know, people who are at base camp are like, I would never litter on this beautiful mountain. But after fucking 20 days or however the hell long it takes up to get Everest, to get near the peak, you're like, I want to get there and not die. So if that means I leave shit behind, like, I don't care anymore, because this is more life and death than it is the purity of the mountain. And like Absolutely. When you have hundreds and hundreds of people, half of them, like you said, aren't like true mountaineering and they're just like paying their way up the mountain. Yeah. You're probably going to get that a lot more, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So when is the next mountain climbing trip? When are you planning to do it?
Oh, that's a great question. You know what? I feel like I'm in a rut right now of like true adventure, because there was the lawsuit, right, which messed me up in my life. Yep. And then there was COVID, and then COVID finally ended, and then last summer I tore a tendon in my arm, right? So, and this injury persists. Like, it's still, like, I can climb a little bit, but I can't climb hard. I can't mountain bike all day. I haven't ski toured in over a year now because I couldn't ski this winter. So it's hard for me right now to dream of an epic adventure because I can't do it right now. And like, it would make sense that I could use this time that I can't do it to plan it, but I also don't know when I'll be better, you know? So I feel like right now I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for my body to heal so I can go do something really cool.
And does that make the, like, even the things that I think you're doing on a day-to-day basis are actually really exciting and stuff, does that make them not as exciting because you fucking climbed Logan and that's insane, and like you're waiting for the next big thing that you're going to do? Are these things just like not that exciting anymore that are exciting to your average person?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we get used to things as people pretty easily. Like, I've done 4 years in Antarctica now, right? Like, it's different every time, but it's also kind of the same. Like where I'm working now, like we'll go, you know, we'll mountain bike, we'll sea kayak, we'll go hiking into the old growth, but like these are like 8-kilometer hikes. Like, I can do that in 1 hour, and we're using 6 hours to do it, which a big part of it, right, is the storytelling and the forest bathing and having a picnic lunch and dipping our toes in the water and ideally having a nap. But like these things I'm doing, they're nice and they're cool, but it's routine. It's my job, so it doesn't get me. I'm not pushing myself, and it's all soft adventure too, right? So I'm not using my skills at the peak. And when I think about Logan, sometimes now I'm like, wow, I did that? Because I don't feel like I could do that right now.
I mean, we are kind of getting old. Do you think that's...
I don't know.
That's a big factor of it?
It's a bit of a factor, but also like there's people, there's men and women out there that are like in their 70s, 80s even, that are still climbing, still ski touring every day, like mountain bike harder than I do, So
yeah, but it sounds like you're looking for something like bigger and better. Like, do you think you'll even be able to do something bigger and better than like what you did on Logan?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
What makes you think that?
I think because
like experience trumps like your body getting old?
Strength. Yeah. Kind of both. Like one experience for sure will trump your physical body, like your mental and your preparations, and just your experience will trump your physical body. But at the same time, there's also like it's about years of toning, right? And like we joke that sometimes it's called old man strength, right? Because like a 20-year-old that's at the peak of their fitness, they might give up before a 50-year-old who's been, like a 20-year-old's maybe been, let's say mountaineering for 3 years. And even though they're at their peak of their fitness, their form is a little off, or they don't have the like muscle endurance, they don't have that long-lasting tenacity in their bones, Whereas like the old guy will just keep going, That old man strength.
You think a lot of that is mental fortitude?
I think a lot of it's mental fortitude, but it's also, I really think a lot of it is just in your body too, right? Like your muscle, it's not about like big explosive muscle. It's about muscles that have been toned and trained for decades to just keep walking, So I don't know at the cellular level what that means, if like they can hold more oxygen, or if they can, I don't know, maybe it's thicker or something. I don't know. But it just like, if you've trained to do something for 10 years versus someone who's trained to do it for 2 years, I don't think it matters the fitness really. Well, sure it does, but I think the time supersedes the peak fitness. You know what I mean?
Well, you guys were young and you guys got to the peak at Logan, and apparently there's all these older groups that didn't, so you might have proved yourself wrong.
I'm going to prove myself right.
Yeah.
It's going to do it in 21 days.
70.
That's right. I'm going to do it on my 40th birthday because I did it for my 30th. I'm going to do it every decade, and I'm going to do it in one less day.
That's crazy. Awesome. When you're 90, it's like 2 weeks.
Yeah. Not even. It would be like 90. That would be 6, 9. 60. Yeah, that would be 2 weeks. Oh, that'd be exciting.
Hey, bro, can we do a battery check?
Yeah.
I was just going to ask.
My computer says 1 hour and 41 minutes remaining.
Oh, nice. Very good.
Yeah. And my headphones say 100% battery.
What?
That's clearly not right. I don't know. I think the computer will be the first thing to die, though.
Yeah. You got a segment, Lee?
Yeah. So this may be a two-parter. I don't know how it should go, because this will be a quick one. But this one's just called overrated and underrated. So I'm just going to give you a little phrase or a thing, and you tell me if it's overrated, underrated. And if you'd like, you can tell me why. If not, you don't need to. Okay. Going to space.
Oh, underrated. That shit is so cool. Like, I am going to space before I die. I am for sure going to space.
I'm totally the opposite. I think it's so overrated.
What? Dude, it's
just like,
space,
really?
man.
It's gotta be so boring.
What are you talking about?
I don't know.
You ever seen the night
Maybe it's
sky?
cool like the first time.
Have you seen the constellations and the planets and like?
Yeah,
Not
I don't
even
know.
just looking back at Earth, I think would be mind blowing.
Absolutely. Like you think of, you know how when you go up the CN Tower and you look down over Toronto and you're like, wow, that's cool. Imagine that times 1 billion.
You know the first thought I had
and
when I
you're in
saw
zero
Toronto
G.
from the CN Tower?
What?
Yeah, I want to experience zero G. That's probably more likely of a more achievable goal, because you can do that like in low orbit plane things, right? That just like go up high and they come back down, and you can like artificially feel it or whatever. Yeah. I would love to do that. I think that would be so cool.
I mean, in a way, also you can just go scuba diving. It's almost, well, I don't know because I haven't been in zero G, but when you get your buoyancy perfect and you're just floating in water, like you can be upside down, you can be doing whatever you want, man. You just float. Like it's definitely different.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's pretty freaking dope.
But it visually feels the same.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. Overrated, underrated. Pornography.
Overrated, I guess. I guess you like, I feel like it's all basically the same after you've seen a little bit. And
yeah, I'm only pausing here because I don't know how I would answer that underrated. Right? It's like, oh, it's so underrated, dude. Have you seen naked people?
It's gonna change your life.
Amazing.
Yeah. And also, like, you know, at this point in our lives, like, we've seen naked people, we've had sex. Like, it's great. And I'd rather feel it than, I don't know, watch it on a screen. So it's I don't know.
What if you're participating in it, though?
If
Not
I
watching
was,
it on the screen.
If I was
You're feeling the porn.
If I was participating in sex?
In porn, though. Like,
what do you
filmed. Mean? If you're participating in pornography.
Like, if I was
like
being
you
filmed?
are the male talent.
Oh.
Being a porn actor, overrated, underrated?
I feel like it's probably overrated because it would be your job.
Yeah.
Like, I love sex, but I feel like it would be fun for the first week or two, and then you'd be like, oh, God.
So I listened to a bunch of interviews of porn stars and stuff, and then, like, the interviewer is a director. Her name's Holly Randall, and she's like, man, so many guys ask me, like, hey, how do I get into porn? How do I get into porn and stuff? And I'm like, just don't. It's so hard. Like, if you're not in it, you probably can't make it.
Right.
If you actually want to practice it, go hang out with a bunch of your friends, maybe 5 to 10 of them. Everyone pull down their pants and start stroking your dicks. Try to get hard and stay hard.
Right.
If you can do that, you might be able to last. Or you might be able to be successful in porn.
Right.
And I was like, oh, that's messed up.
Yeah. That's... Yeah.
Okay, moving on.
I mean, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, you're right, because what you don't realize is behind the camera is, like, a crew of people, just like a film crew.
Yeah.
Like, one guy's doing lights and one guy's doing a thing and one guy's like craft services with the food and stuff. It's like
tuna sandwiches.
Yeah, and you're like over there doing your thing. It's like,
yeah, that's right.
That's super awkward.
Yeah. Or like, you know, it might even be like normal coworkers, you know, where you get on stage and you're like, oh man, Stacy, like, oh, I hate working with her, you know?
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Just like,
gotta perform.
That's right.
Okay, moving on. Getting married.
No, I mean, fuck, you're talking to someone who's like never even thought of it. So overrated.
So what do you think? Overrated. Electric cars.
Oh, well, this one's hard. I like underrated, I think. I think electric cars are sweet. And if we could get like renewable energy going better, then hopefully that would solve a lot of problems, you know? But there's also a lot of talk like of the batteries and how terrible they are. So I don't know. I'm unsure, but I would say underrated because I think they're freaking dope and I hope they get us off fossil fuels.
I mean, you could say they're properly rated.
That wasn't an option. When did this option
You gotta
come?
think outside the box. You gotta think outside the box. This is actually a personality test to see if you would think outside the box.
I will only do what you tell me.
Fail.
Oh no.
Okay, overrated, underrated. No properly rated. Sleeping in.
Sleeping in? Oh, underrated. I love sleeping in. Every time I get a day off at the lodge, my goal is to miss breakfast. Gotta catch up on your sleep, man.
I think sleep is the key to longevity. I've had having 2 young kids, difficult to get consistent sleep and stuff for the past 3 years because Lucas is 3. And it you can feel that your life is getting shorter. It's crazy. It's crazy. And I think if those people that live to 100 plus, I bet you they sleep easy and sleep well.
There's a list of all the things that 100-year-olds say that help them to get to 100. And it's so hilarious. One of them's eat healthy. And then the next one's don't worry about what you eat. Just eat whatever you want. Yeah. And then it's get lots of sleep. And the other one's don't sleep very much.
I remember hearing one. I remember hearing one where this guy was I drink a Dr. Pepper every day.
Right.
And he's that's the only reason why I'm alive 200.
Right.
What the fuck? I don't think that's it, but
I think it just comes down to
whatever
genetics,
they did,
man.
and then yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
there's so much circumstances. Okay, coffee first thing in the morning.
Nah, overrated. I like coffee. I don't even necessarily like coffee. I like a warm drink that I can sip while I'm having breakfast in the morning when it's my time, you know? Early morning is the only time that belongs to me at work. You know, once the day starts, anything can happen. Someone could get injured and we have to medically evac them. Some planes could be delayed by hours. Maybe something happens and I have to stay and work really late. So it's I have control over nothing once I punch in, you know? But at breakfast, having a nice warm something, I don't even care if it's coffee. It could be a nice tea or hot chocolate or whatever. Just having that in the morning, that is properly rated. Whereas coffee itself, I don't really care about it. I'm not a coffee person. The coffees I drink, you know what they are. That's butter, maple syrup in there. It tastes more like sweets than it does coffee. So, overrated.
Overrated. Okay.
Okay, but one more thing here.
What about?
It is found, and I do notice that coffee does make me focus faster. And clears the fog a little bit sooner. So I feel and it's actually proven through studies, that guides make better decisions and have less accidents if they've had a cup of coffee.
Wow. Really?
Yeah.
Caffeine is actually such an amazing drug.
Yeah.
That is it's not a banned substance in sports, but they tested caffeine for joggers, and people that had caffeine before a jog could run 25% either farther or faster for the run. That's a crazy amount.
So
faster or farther.
Did you listen to the dose? It was on the Front Burner feed where they played an episode about coffee and how it actually affects your body.
I did not.
It's pretty interesting. It's basically, it just blocks. It's like it gets in. It looks enough like one of the molecules that we make that keeps us asleep, that it goes into that receptor and blocks it from getting in, but it doesn't actually activate anything. So all it's really doing is blocking your body from staying sleepy.
Right.
I mean, that makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, actually. I've never thought of like how it actually does it, but it's pretty neat.
Caffeine is also like an interesting thing because it is like a drug, right? But then you can get addicted to it, but the consequences are like so mild. Like
Right.
I've been addicted to caffeine to the point that like if I don't have a coffee in the morning sometimes, like I'll get really bad headaches. But that goes away after like 3 days without caffeine. Like your addiction to caffeine could be dropped in like no time.
Right.
So it's like a non-risky drug, but interesting that
like,
it is a drug and
performance?
there is an addiction to it, you know?
Yeah, I just like, if I'm going through the day, I'm just like, man, I'm really tired. Like, I'm way tired, more tired than normal. And I'll just think back like, oh, it's because I haven't had a coffee yet. And this is usually just at home because like I have coffee every day at work. First thing I do is get into work, go into my locker, get my mug, and make a coffee.
Yeah, it becomes like a habit and a ritual, right? And I think we also like train our bodies to need it more than we actually need it. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a crutch.
yeah. But still, it's
For sure.
definitely proven effective. And it's tasty. With the right amount of butter.
All right,
And it smells so good.
I got one, Lee.
Okay.
Overrated, underrated. Artificial intelligence.
Oh.
Maybe at this point we're at right now with people's expectations, like overrated. Like a lot of people think it's going to take over the world, or But I think at its core of what it can do and what's possible, maybe underrated, because I feel like it could just totally change our world.
I agree with that.
I definitely do think it's going to change the world because it's so capable.
Right.
I think with AI, I think it's going to make some things very bad and it's going to make other things very good. Like I think AI in the medical industry, and like once that shit starts going, like we're going to be dropping cures like it's no tomorrow.
Right.
But on the flip side, like something like AI in art and stuff, and that taking over artistic jobs and things like that, and cutting people out of the equation when it comes to certain aspects of our life, like I think that ultimately will be a bad thing. Even though there's still some good in that potentially, like I think it's just a net negative to our society. So overrated, underrated, Canada.
That's an interesting question.
That is interesting.
Overrated because a lot of people see us as like we're kind of put on a pedestal, where we're like the perfect country and natural beauty and everything is great and we're like not racist and everyone lives in harmony and we're so multicultural,
Right.
Which is like none of that is true and it's obviously very complicated. So sometimes it's funny where when I meet people traveling and they're like, "Oh, you're from Canada? It's perfect there." And I'm like, is it? I don't think it is. But also underrated because like the country's freaking gorgeous and we have so much in our culture, like not only our multiculturalism but our First Nations culture, and a lot of people don't even know. Like a lot of people come here and they go to like Banff for a week and they're like, "Oh my god, I've seen Canada." And you're like, you have no idea what Canada is. Like, you haven't been to Canada until you've been to the East Coast and Quebec and Nunavut and out to Vancouver Island and then up to the Yukon and like gone to Northwest Territory and like and seen a sunset on the prairies, right? It's like, if you haven't watched a storm come across Saskatchewan for like 12 hours and then pass over you and then go for another 12, like, you've never seen the prairies.
Good answer.
That was what I was leaning towards initially. I was like, yeah, Canada's so beautiful. There's so much to see, and like, no one knows about half the things that we have to offer.
Yeah.
But the first half, I think, is really valid. Like, because we're polite when we travel, everyone's like, oh my God, that's the best place in the world. And you're like, yeah, but just because we're polite doesn't mean we're actually nice.
Right. Yeah, totally. Yeah. It doesn't mean we're nice to our people or we take care of everyone. But yeah, I think in the grand scheme of things, Canada's a pretty amazing place to be born, to live. We all got
That's a good one. I like that.
You got more, Lee?
I do. Overrated, underrated. Tree planting.
Underrated. Because I guess for me on a personal level and like what I've seen from a lot of other people is that it was a pivotal moment in my life, right? Like, not only do you go there and you work hard and you endure and you persevere, and that builds a lot of character and it trains you to overcome, but also the people you meet and the style of life there is mind-opening, especially for me, like growing up in Burlington, and kind of like my life seemed to be on this path, right? And then you go tree planting and you meet all these different people living life a different way that you didn't even know. And you're like, oh, wow.
Right.
Like, that was a pivotal moment in my life. And I used to joke, and I still kind of believe it, that like it's almost should be a rite of passage that everyone goes tree planting for a summer, right? And you're not allowed to quit. You have to endure. We'd have a lot of hardy people.
That's pretty cool. What about air conditioning?
Oh, overrated.
Don't get me fucking started. Don't get me started.
Overrated, especially in India when you're traveling with your buddy.
It's hot. It's disgusting. All you want to do is just like have a moment to just relax. And you make a promise to your friend that like we won't pay for air conditioning because it's expensive in hostels that we're like basically staying in these cheap little hotels that we're staying in because it's too expensive. So you make a promise that you'll only do it like once on the trip.
It's a special
and then
thing.
you find out that air conditioning is like 30 cents Canadian. And you're like, I'll pay for that on every night. No problem. Jesus Christ. Why are we suffering? There's no reason.
It's not about the money. It's about the experience. It's about having the common experience.
With air conditioning is so much better, though. Holy shit.
Overrated.
That's so good. That's why I put that in there.
I'm glad we can all agree that air conditioning is overrated.
Oh God.
Wow, we actually spent way more time on that than I was expecting.
Yeah, you said that was going to be really
It's a good
short.
one, though.
That's a good one. I like it.
It's a really good segment.
The ones that I've seen done are just like, it's lightning rounds. It's just like, say overrated, underrated, don't give a reason.
But the reason is the best part.
That also could be cool, but yeah, I think the reason,
yeah, it makes
especially with the ones that we
right?
chose, it's much more interesting, I think, to explain it.
Right.
India, overrated or underrated?
India?
Oof.
India.
Overrated.
Really?
For sure.
I was going to say, I think it's underrated because everyone believes like it's one of the worst places to travel.
Well, I get.
But it is. But it just is.
Yeah, I know. But that's why, like, it's got to be underrated.
No, I think
I think it's worse than what people.
It's dirtier than people say.
Listen,
how dirty it is.
listen. Okay, so overrated, underrated Wagga border.
Oh, wildly underrated.
Right. So, like, this is the thing with India, and this is what I explain to people, is that the lows are so low
Yeah.
that the highs, when you hit them, are like, they're off the fucking chart.
so
like,
high.
it makes no sense how good the good stuff is.
Yeah.
Because the bads are really bad.
Yeah. I also say overrated because also for me, like speaking from my like journey as a young man going to India, like I expected because of India's reputation to have like a deep spiritual
Right.
shift or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I never got that. Like, you know,
Yeah.
there was a lot. Like, sure, a lot of things happened. There's great experiences. You meet amazing people, blah, 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 blah. But, like, there was no life-changing moments in India. Like, there was... And at the end of it, I was like, I need to get the fuck out of here. Not like, I am soaking in the spirit of the earth. I was like, I'm fucking done with this place. I want to go now.
Right.
So, yeah, I think in Western culture, it's like a lot of people are like, oh, I gotta go to India and like learn yoga from a true guru. It's like, I don't know if that exists. Like, it does
Yeah.
exist, but not the way that we have it in our head. And like, I've known some people that have gone there and stayed for years and had this most amazing time and been changed. But for me, it was like, I don't know. A lot of it just wasn't what I was looking for, I guess.
Yeah, I think of like Tibetan monks and stuff, and like I think that's a bit more real, that they devote their lives and stuff to it, and so you get more of that out of it. But yeah, I didn't explore as much in India as you did, but I don't know how much of that exists there.
Yeah.
If at
Like
all.
the most real like guru kind of guy that I met was in Varanasi, which is supposed to be, you know, like that's where the river goes through and they put the bodies in, people bathe in it and,
Yeah.
and all this, and it's supposed to be amazing. The most real person I met there, I was sitting on the steps just like watching some body burning, you know, someone I don't know, kind of removed from everything. I wasn't like close in, I was very distant. And
Right.
and this guy, like all dressed as a, you know, a guru and everything, he walks over. No, he didn't even walk over. He was he sat down near me, not close to me. And we looked at each other and he was like, hey, you got a smoke? And I was like, no. And he was like, cool. And then he looked away and just like, we didn't interact anymore. And he just sat there and like, that's nothing special at all. But I was also so used to people sitting down near me and being like, so, got any money? Me being like, no, you know? So for this guy to be like,
Right.
hey, you got a cigarette? And me be like, no. And then for that to be the end of it, I was like, wow, this man is a holy man.
Yeah, even a spiritual man. Right.
You know? It was just terrible to say in a way. And like, I feel a bit like a jerk.
This sums
saying
up.
that,
This sums up my concept of what India is. Right? Is like a man not trying to steal from you is the best experience you had there,
but- right? Yeah.
and it changed your life somehow. Like what the fuck?
Yeah, that's right.
The lows are low, and the highs are high.
The highs are high. I think for me, India's just so much. It's so much work. You know, it's like you're constantly fighting to not get screwed. You're always on watch, so you're not getting your passport stolen or your wallet stolen. You have to dress simply enough that you don't make yourself a target, but it doesn't matter. Like your skin is you're a target. So it's so much work to just be safe and to
Right.
get by that it takes a lot of the fun out for me. Like you wake up in the morning and you're like, okay, I'm gonna go get some breakfast, and you see that it's like $1 written on the sign for breakfast, and then you have your breakfast and everything, and the guy's like, that'll be $5. And you're like, it's $1. It's written right there. And he's like, how about 2? And you're like, no. And he's like, okay. And then he takes the $1. And you're like, now I feel like an asshole, but at the same time, I shouldn't. And then you're like, okay, I'll just get a taxi now to a temple and have this spiritual experience. And then you get, and then the taxi's like, oh, you want to go to that temple? That'll be $30. And you're like, no, it's not. It's $2. And he's like, okay, special price for you, $20. And you're like, no, I will just walk there. And then you walk to this temple and you get there and you're already angry and it's so hot. And you wish that air conditioning was affordable, but it's not. So you're so hot and overcome. And then you get to this temple and some guy is like, would you like to come in? And you're like, yes. And he's like, that'll be $30. And you're like, it's not though. And it's like, it's not even 9:00 by this point.
That's so brutal.
But at other times, you'll take a sleeper train across India.
Yeah.
And there will be a big Indian man who's like, I will massage your back for you with my oils.
While you're asleep.
And it's the best.
It is the best. Or remember how every train ride we'd be sitting there and we'd end up talking to someone or showing pictures from home, or me and Aggie would play guitar and then these ladies would bring out the chapatis and dal and they just share with us, no expectation of anything. That's the thing, right? Is people there are so friendly and so giving, but there's so many people trying to bleed you dry that it's just exhausting. And then you can't trust anyone.
Right.
And even when there was times when people would be doing nice things for me and I'd be like, okay, waiting for the catch, and it wouldn't come and you're like, okay, but then that experience was poisoned because you're waiting. You're not just fully interacting. You're always on guard, right? So you can't have those deep moments. But I mean, that's a lot of traveling, and that's the third world or the developing world, and that's also our privilege, right, of coming from where we come from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
And the more the older I get, the more I travel, and the more disposable income I have. Now for me, it's not necessarily about paying local price. It's about paying a happy price, if they're happy and I'm happy with what I'm being charged, then everyone's happy. I don't need to be charged like a local person because I'm not a local person, right? But it's, I just don't want to feel
right. You just don't want to get scammed.
I just don't want to feel like I'm getting dicked all day, every day. That's what it's about.
Yep. Okay, I got more questions coming your way. These are the time capsule questions.
Ooh.
So here we go. What is your favorite word?
I feel like I know what word... do you know which word this is? Are we making a time capsule or digging up a time capsule?
Oh, we're making one.
Okay.
I've never asked you these questions before.
Okay, because there's...
I don't think.
Brophy loves this one word. He loves this one word. He always says this one word.
Yeah, that's hard, because there's definitely some really fun words up there. Shoot. I'm not gonna give you a good one, because I'm, scrambling to find it.
Well, we can move on, and then if you think about it.
I'll just yell it out.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on.
Samburak.
Moving
on. What is your least favorite word?
Oh.
We could also come back to that.
Least favorite word.
Like.
Maybe sorry. You know what I'll never forget is this...
How un-Canadian of you.
This Russian guy I worked with on the old Russian ships, when I was the assistant expedition leader and working with the crew a lot, I remember after a couple days of like being late, or things didn't go as planned and things shifted, but like I forgot to tell him, so like he was waiting at the top of the crane and we were 10 minutes late, so like he was waiting for no reason, which like all it took was for me to say like, hey, by the way, we're gonna be 10 minutes late, and then he was like, dude, I've been waiting, and I was like, sorry, like I didn't say it like that. I said, I'm sorry, and he was like, there's no sorry. You either do it or you don't. Like, you either care or you don't care, right? Like, sorry is such a cop-out. And I think about that a lot, how whenever someone says sorry, I'm always like, but is this going to happen again? Like, do you give a shit? And whenever I say sorry, like, I catch myself and I'm like, oh, do I care? Because if I cared...
Right.
This shouldn't have happened.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think sorry is my least favorite word.
That's very interesting. Very interesting. Who is your most favorite person in the world? Dead or alive?
Oh, most favorite person? Shit. That's hard.
Other than
clear,
Lee and I. You can't say us, because like, that's the obvious answer, but...
Okay, I assumed that because then it would have been really easy. Favorite person in the whole...
I was just going to say, to be clear, I don't even think I have answers for these questions, so...
Yeah.
They're a bit tough.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I guess my grandma comes to mind.
Which one?
The one that's still kicking. Granny Brophy, Booze and Susan.
That's Dad's side?
Yeah. She's a pretty rad lady. I like her a lot.
Very cool. Very cool. Mm-hmm. Have I met her? Because I feel like I have.
I think you have, but a very long time ago.
Yeah, I feel like I have. What are you most proud of?
Jeez. I think I'm most proud of the fact that I try to live life. Like, I think I'm pretty good at saying I'm going to do something and doing it, and it being true to what I desire. Does that make sense?
Nice. Yeah, absolutely. What are you most ashamed of, or that you regret the most?
Ooh, probably most ashamed of, or regret, I guess, also, is just the times in life when I've been, like, depressed, like, dark, and, like, really unhealthy, and not a good person. Not only to myself, but to others.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. What's one thing that you do on a regular basis that you hate doing?
That I hate doing? Probably, like, being so freaking scatterbrained, or like chasing the ball that's being thrown in front of you, that I lose the plot on things that are important,
Yeah, like getting distracted?
Yeah, just getting distracted by so many fun little things that I miss out on bigger things, like bigger important things.
I definitely feel that. If you could have one superpower, what would it be and why?
To speak every language. Because
very interesting.
It would be so neat. Like, I look back on some of my trips, like in Mongolia. Like, if I could talk to those people, it would be so interesting. Like, what the heck is going on? Like, what do you people do? Like, what do you think of? What do you think of the freaking world, man? Like, but I can't get that deep. Like, being in Japan, right? And understanding their world. Because language is so prohibitive. Even within Canada, even within people, like, home means a different thing to everybody. Like, love means a different thing to everybody. And we're all speaking the same language, with the same dialect, in the same place. And we still can't, like, I will never have the words to express how I feel about anything, And then you throw in a language barrier, and it's like, good night.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Like, imagine going back to India and being able to speak Hindi fluently, right? Or like Punjabi or all the infinite languages in India. Like, maybe you'd have a different life there, right? Like, maybe you show up and you order breakfast in Hindi, and the dude's like, oh, you care about being here, or you're interested in my culture enough that you learn the language, or that you know the language? Like, yeah, that breakfast is $1, you know?
And he sits down and talks to you because you're not just a foreigner. Yeah.
That's right. Just another foreigner coming to eat his food. It's like you're, and maybe you sit and you chat all day and you have 1,100 cups of chai and it's delicious, you know, and you actually get to understand each other and talk about life. That would be freaking cool. Or like the Russian.
I do like that.
Yeah.
I do like that the superpower you picked is just something that you could learn. Like you could just, that's not that super of a power other than the fact that you would get it without any work.
Yeah. I mean,
but it's pretty unattainable to learn every language in the world and speak them fluently.
At the drop of a hat. But
like it's like pretty unattainable.
Yeah, well, of course, but
you're right in a way, and like you think of when I was in Japan, right? Like I spent a lot of time working on Japanese, and I was, you know, fluent when I left, and I passed the national exam to say I was fluent and all this. But still, like, there's no way you're ever going to get to even if I spent my whole life there, I would never. It would take so much work, and you would still never get to the depths that you want to be at. And I'm not going to spend my whole life in Japan. I'm not going to spend my whole life in India, right? Like, I'm just passing through.
Yeah.
And I know that. They know that. Everyone knows that.
Well, Google Translate's pretty decent. I mean, it's not as quick as if you just knew the language innately, but Google Translate's kind of getting close.
It's pretty good, man.
Cool.
And I definitely use it traveling. I'll download
cool.
whatever language and I'll use it. Even the speaking
Have
one
you
is
used
like,
it?
Okay.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, have you used it as a translator in between you and another person? You just place it on the table,
Yeah.
and you just talk into the phone. Yeah?
Yeah, I did that.
How are those interactions?
I mean, it's okay because you can talk to people, but you're using simple words. You're talking slow, so your tone is off, and then that kind of betrays the words. And then maybe it says something wrong, which changes the whole question, right? So you get a different answer, and then you're on this weird tangent. So, like,
right,
it doesn't work, but at the same time, it does work. But it wasn't something long lasting. Like, we did that in Russia on the train. Like, some guy that was sitting in the same cabin. We put the phone on the table and we'd talk and he'd talk and we'd talk and he'd talk. But it doesn't flow right. It's like gimmicky in a way, and it was fun, but it's also exhausting to have a conversation.
Right. Okay. What's one thing that you wish people understood about you?
Oh. I think a lot of people think that my life is like constant adventure and joy and easy, and like I'm, you know, living my dream, and my work is like always interesting and always the best. And like, I think people get confused when I'm sad or depressed, or they're like, wait, why? Like, you travel all the time, or you're always, you know, like doing some adventure.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like that, you know, it's just life. Like, and it's got all the pros and cons and all the same feelings as every other life, you know? I think a lot of people like oversimplify and glorify the like path I've chosen, where I don't think it is what a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm definitely guilty of that. Okay, moving on. If money was not an issue, how would you spend your time each day?
I feel like it would be like non-stop expeditions, a lot of traveling.
So the only thing really that's holding you back is money?
Yeah, yes and no. Like, I do enjoy work as well. So, but yeah, I think a big thing that holds me back is other people as well, right? Like, if I want to do a big expedition, like we said before, like I need a friend or an adventure partner, right? And if there's not two of us with the same amount of money to put towards it, the same amount of time off to do it, the same amount of like gear and everything, then it's just not going to happen. So a lot needs to line up, like lives need to align. But if you took money out of that equation, then that would essentially take work out of the equation, I assume. So then if everyone had infinite free time, then I think it would be really easy to organize a lot of really rad trips.
Yeah. I'd be like, I want to go on a cruise with my entire family. How much do you guys need to come on this cruise? And they're like, well, I would lose my job. I'm like, okay, how much money do you need? Because I have infinite money.
Right.
How much do you need to lose your job?
Right.
And come with me.
Yeah, because it's
weird.
Like,
yeah, that's
does money not exist just for me or for everybody? Because that totally different.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, probably just not for you. Like, you don't have infinite money. It's just things don't cost you anything.
Mm.
Yeah, because that makes way more sense. Okay, if you could change one thing in the world, what would it be?
Probably like something like basic needs, like if everyone in the world could just have clean drinking water or enough food to eat. Something really simple and basic like that, I think would go a long way to making the world a much better place for everybody. Let's go real basic. Let's just go clean water. Everyone on Earth has clean water.
Yeah, clean water. Yeah.
Start at the basics.
You know what mine is?
What?
Or at least what comes to my head first is like, no one needs to sleep. So good.
Just on the go.
The other day I was like, imagine no one got tired.
Right.
Ever.
Right.
But then I started thinking about things like, what would a basketball game look like? Where LeBron James just doesn't get tired.
Oh. Just nonstop.
This doesn't make any sense. It just, nothing makes any sense.
Dude, it would be so awesome though if you didn't need to sleep. Like you could, like I just think of a normal day, you could.
You're just training nonstop. Your muscles just grow to like.
Yeah. Like I would have time.
Astronomical proportions.
I would have time to go to work, come home, like have really good food, hang out with friends, go to the gym, like lift some weights, get strong, do my physio, go for a swim, like have a campfire under the stars, probably go like night paddling or rock climbing, and then just rock up to work. Like that would be amazing.
Yeah.
And like we've kind of had little tastes of that, like up in the Yukon, where you get 24, or Antarctica where you get 24 hours sunlight, right? Like, there's some days where you're out on the bow of the ship, or, like we've been out in the Yukon, like climbing, and you look at your watch and you're like, it's 3 a.m. Like what? And you just like you just go forever, and it's amazing.
Do you think that, like, if everybody didn't need sleep, that the world would evolve, society would evolve to, like, I mean, you work, like, right now you work, like, what, 60%, 70% of your waking hours? Do you think that would just translate forward into 24 hours and you would just end up working more?
Yeah, that's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
And then, like, that would just end up sucking because it's just, like, way more work now.
Yeah, it's probably, like, 12-hour work days.
Yeah, or more. Yeah, for sure. I think things would adjust. Everyone would work more. We'd be more productive. Everything would happen faster.
We'd be so advanced.
And
the world would be so polluted.
Yeah, but we'd also, like, make stuff to unpollute it. I don't know. I feel like fundamentally...
non-stop energy to light up the night.
Yeah, like fundamentally, I don't think anything would change. We'd just do the same thing faster. But.
Right. Okay, well, if you could change one thing about yourself, what would it be? And why?
I think that I would want myself to be more content, I always hated the word content because I'm like, content's fucking boring, man. Like, if you're not stoked, if you're not jazzed, if you're not excited, then what's the point, right? But there's times where I'm like sitting down and I'm like, I should be totally happy right now, and I'm not. Like, I feel empty, So maybe that would be it, to just like be freaking content with what you got and where you are. Just be happy.
Right. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Yeah, pretty much the same, I guess. Like seasonally guiding and doing sweet trips. So hopefully I'll be healed by then and there won't be a new COVID by then. So hopefully I'm climbing that next mountain and going on that sweet adventure. But I think it's generally the same, just ideally some more big trips like I used to, you know, like another big sailing trip or a big pack rafting trip or a big climbing trip. Like that's pretty basic. I don't think there's much that's changing when you meet me in 5 years. Ideally, I probably have a little house somewhere that I rent and as a glorified storage unit.
Oh, yeah.
Other than that, I think it's pretty basic.
Okay, and then lastly, what is the biggest or one of the biggest things you want to accomplish in life?
Yeah, I don't know. I would like to go to space. That's pretty big, I think.
Space is overrated, but yeah. That's one of the things you want to accomplish.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
I don't know. I guess go to space or just like I guess just be like just be a really competent, solid person, you know, where, you know, maybe I'm visiting a friend in Banff and they're like, hey, you want to go climb this really hard mountain? I'm like, yes. And then we go do it. And then like I fly over to like GTA and you're like, hey, I'm building a deck. Can you give me a hand? And I'm like, yes. And then we build that deck, you know? And then, you know, I'm out on Vancouver Island and someone's like, hey, I really want to do this like 21-day kayak trip around Vancouver Island. You want to come? And I'm like, I do, you know? And just be, you know, I think I want to be...
Mr. Available.
Well, not just Mr. Available, but Mr. Competent. Like, I want to have so many fucking tools in my belt that you can be like, hey, can you help me, like,
I see.
make this rare fly fishing lure? And I'm like, sure. You know, and then, like, you know, it's like I don't have to be the best at everything. I just want to be, like, basic competent at everything so I can help people with their projects to grow their dreams and also to just fulfill my... I feel like oftentimes I feel like I don't really have big dreams in life, you know, like I just want to like climb some stuff, and a lot of my trips are kind of like, I don't know, they're almost like whimsical, you know. It's like, oh yeah, well, I'll just go buy a horse in Mongolia and go ride, you know. It's like, okay, like it's kind of a dream but kind of not, you know. It's just something cool to do. Where I really get a kick out of like when Emily, like all those years ago, was like, I really want to ride my bike down the West Coast, and no one ever wants to do it. And then we did it and fulfilled that dream, right? Like that was fucking awesome. And like when I was in Toronto working on the show, and Lou was like, I know it's not your dream to build a patio, but like...
No, it's not. It was my dream. That's my dream.
That is your dream. But for you to be like, hey, I'm doing this thing, like to be able to have the time and to contribute, not that I was much of the skill part of that. I was like a doer and lifter, but to help like fulfill or complete that project, like I get a lot of jollies out of that.
Yeah. Well, for sure. For sure. It's the best, like, helping someone.
It is.
But then even better is to, like, help them achieve their dreams.
Yeah.
Like, how much more help could you help someone with?
That's right.
It's amazing.
It's the ultimate. Especially if
I
it's
really
like,
relate to, like, not having big dreams.
Yeah.
Because I don't.
Right.
I really don't. I'm, like, I am pretty content. Like, my dream in life is just to have a family. My, like... not realistic dream is to like sing into a crowd of like 100,000 people.
Oh,
and every person there would love my singing.
Ah, dude, that's sweet.
That is an unrealistic dream, but that would be so amazing.
That's kind of like, I have a little like secret unachievable dream like that as well. Like I would love to be the lead singer of a cover band and play like massive shows, you know, or like even
Yep.
like I would love to, when I eventually buy a house somewhere, like if that house in Kimberley worked, you know, like I would love to join like the community theater and be part of that. I think that'd be so much fun.
For sure. For sure. I mean, that's attainable.
That's attainable for sure.
Same with a cover band.
Yeah.
Like a cover band in a bar.
Well, bigger than a bar. Like, you know, like people
Like you can go on tour.
like people would want to be there, you know. It's not like you're the cover band and people are like, oh, who's this guy, but whatever, the beer's cheap, you know. Like I'd want to be the lead singer of a cover band where people are like, yo, did you know that the whoever's are in town,
goat soaps are in town.
Oh, did you know the goat soaps are in town? Like, yeah, man, let's go. You know, I want to be that kind of cover band.
Nice.
Like I don't need to sing it.
Okay, well those are all my time capsule questions.
A stadium or anything, but like people have to want to be there, and like not just you guys, you know, like not just you guys coming to support.
It's a stadium. It's just us.
It's just all my friends, and everyone's like on their phones.
This is a very achievable dream. Like we can just make that happen.
Yeah, we could probably do it. Yeah, we'll just rent a stadium and invite my friends.
How much do you think it costs to rent a stadium?
Oh my god, no idea.
Like a real stadium, like a real.
Like Rogers Stadium.
A lot of money.
That's a great question, though. I have no idea.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure they're booked up nonstop throughout the year, pretty much.
Like every night?
I think so. Like pretty much. There's got to be concerts, events, sports games.
Yeah, you're probably right. It's probably like a lot of like every other night and every other.
Oh, I'm thinking of the Air Canada Centre actually, not Rogers. But Air Canada Centre would be like pretty packed nonstop. It's like basketball, hockey.
Well, that's only in the winter though.
And then concerts on the weekdays, circuses. So it'd be like whatever they could have made by giving it to like a band instead.
Right.
So it's like tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars.
I have no idea, but it's probably really expensive.
Just as a
time capsule questions.
Just as a quick time check, speaking of time capsule, apparently my computer says 30 minutes of battery left.
Nice. Very nice.
Okay. I think I gotta cut it short here now.
Okay.
There still is a ton of stuff I want to talk about, but I gotta go.